to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on the forum.
This is Parker. Go by Tweak on forums.
This is Jeremy. Still no forums. Deal with it. You're fine.
The days of Jermiger Constagon have faded away into the past.
Mm-hmm.
They're still strong.
Oh, that's
No,
that.
well,
I want you to know, in my
you're
mind, that's how I refer to you, Jeremy.
That's how I refer to
You'll always
myself.
be
I write that
J-Bear
on
to me.
checks.
Jeremy, you always be J-Bear to me.
Aw, that's so stupid.
Back when they made you sign receipts, I would always sign them Pharaoh Tutankhamun, just to see if anybody would notice. Every once in a while, I gave somebody a chuckle.
Dr. Pepper.
My signature is just BS. I just write BS and circle it.
Yep, I do. I call you BS fairly often. I like
You
that.
do. So quick funny story. When I worked as an air traffic controller and I was doing training, we have what they call ghost callers. So you'll be in one room and you'll have the whole video and audio setup in front of you. There's people several rooms away in the building, and this is all just in the training lab. And they have just basically temp employees that come in and they just read the script. And the way you sign off on the air channels is you say your operator initials, which are like, GK, DR, whatever it happens to be. And so the person that wants to end the call will say their initials. And to confirm that there's nothing else to say, the other person will say their initials. And that will seal the call. Both people turn off the line. The reason that's important is because they use technology from the 1960s, and so it's a hotline. You just press a button and the person can hear you, and so you need to tell them to go away so you can go back to what you're doing. And so if they say their initials, unless there's something very important you have to say, you're supposed to sign off regardless. But of course, my initials being BS, the guy calls in and he goes, "Hey, I have traffic for you at this." I was like, "Roger, BS." And he's like, and the guy just sits there, he's like, "What?" And he thought I was saying bullshit and wouldn't get off the line. I'm in the middle of a test evaluation, seeing if I'm going to keep my job or not. And the guy won't hang up the phone. And I have planes intersecting. I'm like, "Dude, get off the line." I just yelled, "Hang up" over the line. And he finally got off the line. It's like, what the hell?
That's awesome.
Pretty funny.
Yeah. Whatever. Fuck you is functionally what he thought you said.
Yeah. Surprisingly enough, the hardest initials to get are BS and FU.
Yeah.
When I actually got to live traffic, I was my initials were AC, which was convenient because my next job was AC wholesale.
Way to line that up. Good job.
I did. Alrighty. So moving on to announcements for today. We have the results of the bet. The much-awaited anticipation.
Yeah.
I did go back and I was able to piece together the words "I will shave my head if I lose" through all of the audio recording I had. And so I've spliced that together and then leveled out the volume. So it's ready to go. Unfortunately, the bet was only Parker wins if he was unaffiliated. And so because he's in Cabal, no one wins the bet.
Yay-ish.
Aww.
But you would have had to shave your head. I would have seen to that.
I feel like you both
I'm
lose.
pretty sure I could have talked
That's
to your
the
wife.
worst.
She would have let me into your house at 3 a.m. and let me shave your head in your sleep.
Oh, I
only got to get about the middle section, and then you're going to have to shave it anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, but that was fun. I like doing that. We should do that more often. We should have more bets down the line.
Is he still on probation, or how'd that go?
Oh, yeah. No, he's let's see. He was on probation for 3 episodes, and every episode he's had it extended. And so I think this is the 3rd episode since he missed one. So he's got 3 more episodes of probation. Here, I'll make a note
Triple
of that.
extended.
3 more
Okay.
episodes. 3 more of episodes of probation.
Triple extended probationary period. And then he goes into super secret probation, which is different, but we'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so that's going to take us into the next segment, which is Parker. What is the next segment?
News. Okay.
News.
First news, which is really hot off the presses. Spider-Man got a panel to play after we know everything in his card already. So did you guys know that
Amazing Spider-Man?
The Amazing Spider-Man. He has a strength 8 attack. Did you know this?
Well, hold on, Parker. Do they spoil his alter ego in the panel to play?
Yes, they even say Peter Parker in there. Yeah.
Oh, man, I hate when everything's known beforehand.
Yeah.
What a terrible panel to play.
Yeah. I love the last part. Peter Parker has yet even more tricks up his sleeve, but that's all we have time for today. Come back next time, or find out several months ago that these things are already known.
Did they hint at any of his tactic cards or anything?
No.
Okay.
It's just stuff that we already knew. But yeah. So
all right. So
that's
moving on to the actual news.
So we have some stuff that came out in the new X-Force and Mr. Sinister boxes. And Brotherhood of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. So the very first one was the Deadly Legacy Virus, the new 19-point mission came with Mr. Sinister, came out automatically already misprinted, which they've already printed a retraction. So the original print had it on as a
Parker,
C deployment.
Everything that's misprinted comes out misprinted. It doesn't change later on.
True that. That is the definition of misprinted. Yeah. I'm doing my best 24-hour news cycle news where they say the thing that's obviously true as I say it. That's how it works.
So biggest thing about this mission, obviously it's supposed to be on deployment Charlie, not deployment Echo. I think deployment Charlie actually makes it a much more interesting mission and less linear, because if it's Echo, both people are easily going to take one, and it's going to be easy to hold on to it. As where if it's on Charlie's centerline deployment, it's going to be a lot harder to get a hold of it and hold on to it for a long time because you'll be much closer to the enemy. So I think Charlie makes it a much more interesting one, as where if it was actually an Echo deployment, basically a null scenario.
No, that's not true. So let me explain what happened with Echo. Okay. Echo, the way it was designed...
Wow, watch this. I love the intro to this hot take. Go.
No, so Echo, the way it was designed and how it landed in its initial form, people freaked the fuck out for two reasons. The fact that Thanos exists and could essentially go grab yours on the opponent's side, grab the second one, and then be all the way back at their initial starting point on turn 1, 33% of the time.
How are they doing this?
Using only a couple things. You need Hulk.
Okay.
Hulk throws Thanos to the middle. Thanos grabs both points and walks backwards. He can do all of that. So for 15 points, you get that package guaranteed. So you have all of it except 1 point.
So you're doing... Hold on. I know what you're saying.
Go ahead.
So you're saying that you gamma launch Thanos before anyone's activated, place him around the middle of the table. He activates, picks up the first one, moves forward, picks one up, moves back twice.
Yep.
Okay.
So then all you need is 2 points off of the secures, which can happen very quickly, and then you cash in the 8 because you're gaining points with the 2 that you hold for 2 turns. So basically on turn 3, your opponent can't really do anything. You've auto lost that mission. Now you can do the same thing using portals and Hulk and move forward, and they have to kill Hulk before anything else collapses.
Well, actually, if you do all that, all you accomplish is you score 8, 9, 10 victory points and kill Thanos, right?
No, because you don't pick that up until later. You sit on it and then murder anyone who comes close to it until you're ready to cash it.
I don't know how automatic this is, but
it was
is
bad.
An annoying strategy.
It was really bad, and it existed. So them changing it...
I think any list that includes Hulk is not going to automatically defeat an enemy force pushing into itself. But I understand the problem it was causing, yes.
So that initial problem came out, I heard about it several times, and the fact that it got fixed, I mean, there's a unanimous, it was like at the end of Return of the Jedi when everyone was dancing and fireworks are going off. It was like, okay, perfect, they fixed it, that's good. And now it exists as an actual mission, which is cool. Anyway, that was the problem with that one. It came out completely busted, and people broke it immediately.
So if you build an entire roster around something that can only possibly happen 1/3 of the time, you will have an advantage. I don't know if that was worth necessarily like nuking from orbit and changing the way the scenario worked, but that would be annoying. But
It was
if you're
considered.
playing,
It was considered much less egregious than Hired Muscle. I mean,
that's about where I would put it. Is a noticeable problem, but I don't see a list that includes Thanos having lots of extra character slots and tactics card slots to include Hulk and Gamma Launch.
but if it did, you're kind of done. That's the problem.
And they get priority, and they get
Yes.
to choose the right mission.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there really isn't that space anywhere else in the game, right? Like, most of the time you have a pretty good shot and you can kind of fight it out depending on your choices. But if that mission landed and those things hit, like, there wasn't unless they also took Thanos and they also took Hulk and they also did those things and didn't get, I mean, it
But
just.
they're like noticeably disadvantaged in any other situation, right?
Well,
So
it's
I think
only
there's
three
enough-
members. Well, it's only three
minimum
members of your
2/3 of the
rosters
time.
and one tactic slot. Like that's
Yeah.
not. That's it. Like and also two of those members are going to be Thanos and something else you could play in anywhere. So like it's not like
it's specifically that you're including a character that you don't want to play outside that exact situation and a tactics card. Mostly the tactics card, honestly. Like, if you have an extra character slot in your roster, I get it. That makes sense. But, like, who has noticeable amounts of extra tactics slots sitting around in the roster? Like, putting that in means you're dropping a relevant card, which means you're being disadvantaged in every other version of
So
the
you've
game.
already
That's all I'm
dropped.
saying.
You've already dropped irrelevant tactics cards because no one can take Hired Muscle anymore. So there's a spot right there.
No, but Gamma Launch only functions if you get priority in that scenario.
Yeah. The whole thing only works with priority.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That 2/3 of the time you're disadvantaged to have an advantage 1/3 of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, long term, like, it might work in local games in, like, if you get lucky on the setup. But, like, long term, I don't think it would have really, like, damaged the meta if that stayed around.
I think people would have just not, like, I think it would have been a gentleman's agreement, don't do it. I don't think that should have, I think most people would have come to it on their own. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's silly. But the fact that it existed and then they just nipped it, and that's great. And they very well might have been like, oh shit, we accidentally misprinted it. Regardless of how it landed, it's fixed now. So good for them.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It happened awfully quickly for it to be a play thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if someone found it out first day, I doubt they would have made the change the same day. They probably would have talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to lean towards it was an actual misprint. But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe they've already said somewhere, but
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that it seems that egregious. I mean, you can do some really janky stuff to get very early scores on Wakandan herbs too, but they haven't stopped that.
so.
I think
That was,
I don't know. The difference
was-
is you can contest that. Like, you can actually try. I don't think you can do anything about your opponent winning with, like, turn 3 and they have that set up. You just auto lose.
Well, they're still not winning. They're just getting a bunch of points. And it is a lot of points, but if they're giving up like 8 or 9 points to their roster, then, you know, that's necessarily not so many points.
Yeah.
You've also dedicated the vast majority of your army is sitting back on your back extraction point, which means you're not taking the secures. And so it only really is abused if your opponent is not playing the secured part of the mission as well.
Well, it's fixed, so, you know, there you go. What else? What else, Parker?
Other news. Of course, we got Research Station Attacked, which is the other tactics card that comes with the cable pack, I believe. Is that right? So we know what it does now. Did we get that thing totally leaked early? I can't remember if that one was totally
The
leaked
Research
early.
Station Attacked, I believe, was on Assemble last week. But I mean, it's released worldwide, just not in the US. So we're the only ones that don't have ready access to it.
Right. I don't actually have a copy of it. Do we know what it looks like?
I've been told what it does multiple times. It's basically, from what I understand, it's like the Deadly Meteors mission, except you don't need to roll if there's no one contesting the points. So if you move up and you interact with it and there's no enemies, you just take control of it.
Okay. So then another mission to kind of slow down that part of the game, right? You're putting some randomization into it rather than just having it.
Is that one the 19.1
Which one?
or the 14.1?
The
one you're talking
the
about right now?
moon-based one?
Yeah.
The research station.
The research station, I don't remember what point total it was. I think the legacy virus was the 19. So yeah, I think research station was 16. I have no idea what the moon base is.
Because one of them is a reverse tug of war, where if you control it, you're trying to put it in on top of the other one, which is on your opponent's side. So you move it forward closer to you.
That's the research station we haven't talked about yet.
Okay. There you go. Okay. Again, we don't have this stuff in front of us, so we're kind of like, I'm trying to remember what I heard.
All my stuff's at the shop. But anyway, so Deadly Viruses looks like a very interesting, fun mission, and I'm very excited that we have non-super linear missions coming out now.
Mm-hmm.
So Parker, do you have a copy of the research station?
No, I don't.
Looking at? Okay, I'll run through it real quick then. So Research Station Attacked, I believe, is the 16-point extract. It is on Deployment Echo. The middle of the 3 points is a civilian token that you cannot pick up, and then the far outside tokens are the evac points. And it's kind of like the Mayor Fisk mission. Every turn, if you're controlling the person, you get to place him. And so you get to place him closer towards the extract point is the intent. And then at the end of a turn, if he's within range of the extract point, you get to extract him and get extra points. Very exciting. There's an extract where you actually extract the point. But like Jeremy said, the extraction point is towards your enemy's side of the board. So you're not trying to run backwards with it, you're trying to go forwards.
Yeah, I really like that. I also like the idea that it's like nothing happens until something happens. I like those kind of missions too, where it's not like a slow trickle of points that you're watching the counter go up. You're expecting at some point that there's going to be a disparity, and you're preparing to either take advantage of that or to prevent that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and like if you pull it towards yourself, trying to get away from your opponent, then you're actually doing a favor for your opponent, making it closer to their goal. So it is really interesting. What do you do? Go sideways? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I think you just put it where their people aren't, make them move to it, I guess.
Which is cool. Those options and decisions are good.
I really like it because it's one more opportunity for me to have a mosh pit in the middle of the board with Avengers.
Yeah, I actually said the exact same thing to Richard, is that Parker is going to keep playing Avengers now because of the new releases.
Yeah.
Even though he said I need to stop playing Avengers.
So many mosh pits, so little time. We've got other new cards. We've got some tactics cards that came with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. No More Mutants is a new one, based upon her famous phrase in the Marvel Universe. It's an unaffiliated reactive card for Scarlet Witch. When an enemy character within range 5 of her spends 1 or more power to do one of their superpowers, she may spend 3. The enemy superpower has no effect, cannot be used again, and the enemy character still has to spend the power cost. So it's basically for Scarlet Witch. It's Ebony Maw's tactics card for her. Or is it shush or is it shh?
Shush.
It's shush. Oh, okay.
It's just easier because shh sounds dumb.
Yeah. Could be a leaky faucet, a leaky tire. Speaking of leaky tire, how about that Ebony Maw, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
No one cares about that guy.
Don't talk about him like that. He's not even here.
Can I say that the card could have read "No More Ebony Maw," and that could have been the card?
No! Oh, he didn't go there.
I believe it is the exact same wording.
Yeah.
The only changes are you replace Ebony Maw with Scarlet Witch and change the title, and it's the same card.
Mm-hmm. Which
is good. I mean, because that way we can just burn our Ebony Maws and not worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
Oh.
Woody couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, I guess, right? He's a sadistic son of a bitch.
He might be one of the only models I've never actually seen on the table ever.
No,
I've never seen him play.
I played him.
You didn't play him versus me.
My first game with him, I thought I played him against you. It was forever ago.
No,
it was like
wasn't against me.
I don't know. Jeremy's a liar.
No, I think I've seen every model on the table except him.
Ooh.
Just
Ant-Man?
saying. Okay, I haven't seen it, but nobody's seen it.
We're talking about actual models.
That's not even a model. Come on,
Isn't
bro.
isn't that kind of sad? How many characters? I mean, there are not an enormous number of characters in this game, and there are several that we have never,
seen
ever,
every model
ever,
on the
ever
table.
seen.
I've seen every model on the table, but Ebony Maw. What about Ant-Man? Let's be real. Like,
Get the fuck over it. No,
that's
no.
the response. Are you serious? Like, that's
Shut
not
up.
a model in this
Yeah.
game. It's just funny.
No, real models.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what's the next card, Parker?
The Whims of Chaos. Scarlet Witch can spend any number of power to play this card. Basically, you choose any characters within 3 of her friendly or enemy. If you chose a friendly, they gain either health or lose a special condition. If you choose an enemy, they gain either Hex, Root, or Incinerate. So she just spends any number of power, picks that number of characters, and it has a control effect or a positive effect. I think it's a really cool balanced card. I don't know if it's so imbalanced that you play it all the time, but I like the card.
I think it's a good card.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Second Wind from Avengers. It's a little different, but it's kind of the same concept of you're like removing damage from your people and manipulating negative effects.
The fact that you can also remove a special condition and the fact that it's just active, meaning if Scarlet Witch is just sitting on some power and you want to activate somebody who's stunned and you're like, you know what, you're not stunned and they're incinerated, I'm going to go kill that person, you know? So it could say spend 2 power on Scarlet Witch and make one character's activation hit extra hard. Like that's pretty cool.
Well, it's just you can just do one. You can spend 1 power to give somebody incinerate. Like that's a
Right.
powerful effect at range 3, honestly.
Right. I was just saying, like, go ahead.
Man, I don't know. Don't forget that she prevents the shaking of some effects within a certain range, and so like giving someone like also rooted is really annoying. Like if perfect example, you're attacking Magneto. Magneto has 2 power. You give him rooted, he can't force projection. Like there's a lot of interactions like that, like Slippery on Toad, or Can't Catch Me on Quicksilver, or Trickster with Loki. There's a lot of expensive powers that can only trigger on the targeting, so you can prevent them from ever happening.
Yeah,
I don't know. It seems like a kind of like her fun card. Like you might put that just to be, I don't know, for fun. I just don't see it be a game-winning card.
You can also use it to heal the damage dealt to you by forced extraction, if you care. And also pay 1 power to remove stagger. That seems good.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like when your opponent looks at the board and opponent activates somebody early and goes, okay, all right, I really need this character to be controlled. I can't kill them because they're such a tough model. So let's go ahead and stagger MODOK. There we go. Now he's staggered. Now I don't have to worry about him for the rest of the turn. Scarlet Witch doesn't even have to activate. You just play that Tactics card. MODOK's not staggered anymore, and you're also incinerated. MODOK eats your face, and you're like, ah, shit! Like my control effect did nothing because you had Scarlet Witch in that Tactics card. I think it's actually, like I said, I don't know if it's so imbalanced that it takes the spot over something. But if you play Scarlet Witch, I really like how this greases wheels. But that's just my favorite kind of card.
Yeah, I actually think I'll probably see this in a lot more lists than I'll see, like, No More Mutants in. I think No More Mutants seems like the stronger card, but I think this one actually long-term will end up being better.
I disagree.
All right, we'll see. Shaved head bet.
I'll just put it in every list of mine, then you're going to have to deal with it. I just think it's stronger to see... it stops the charge, it stops throws, it stops a lot of things that kind of change the game. I don't think that... Go ahead.
You do have to be a little careful because stuff like charge, they can do from outside of 5.
True.
And while you can position yourself to be within 5 of those people, you do need to pay attention to it. And a lot of superpowers are once per turn anyway, so if you're spending 3 power to stop 1 power... and a tactic slot, I don't know. It better be a really good power. But yeah, if you're getting like the Siren's Call on Enchantress, probably worth it.
I just imagine getting like a size 4 thrown at you by Angela or even Scarlet Witch. Like some of those things are pretty brutal when they happen, and they're kind of like set their whole turn up to do those things and be able just to go, nope, you're not doing that. That's pretty good. I think that's a great use of a card.
You know what else does that?
Brace.
Magneto.
Brace.
Well,
Brace.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. Alrighty. So moving on, we have the one more tactics card.
Yep.
Parker,
Can
hit us with the tactics.
Last one. Can I borrow that? Another unaffiliated reactive card for Quicksilver. After any attack made by a Quicksilver that damages an enemy character holding an asset token is totally resolved, Quicksilver may immediately spend 2 power to play it. Move 1 asset token from the target character to Quicksilver. He picks it up and is now holding it. The card does not allow Quicksilver to carry more tokens than the crisis specifies. So, another Enchantress / Miles effect for 2 power once per game for Quicksilver. Only for the low cost of a tactic slot.
Do you think they learned something
actually-
after the fact that your favorite card, Brandon, doesn't work if it's not damaging your opponent? This card works after you roll the dice.
Oh no, I thought of that exactly when I read this card. I'm like, hey, they learned how to type things. Good job. And I was pretty upset. So I don't think this card will get played a lot, but that being said, it's only because there's a lot of good tactics cards in Brotherhood. Can I check that real quick? Is this a Brotherhood card? Or is this just a Quicksilver? It's just a
unaffiliated
Quicksilver card?
It's unaffiliated. Yep.
Ooh, we might start seeing Quicksilver drop-ins because that guy could come from downtown and steal an objective.
Mm-hmm.
Because he can come from long move, attack, and then still medium move away.
Yep.
That's crazy. But yeah, it is kind of an expensive card because you have to damage and all that. But I like it. It's a good option, and it also helps synergize with the difficult to please card that we knew about, which will allow Magneto to activate again because Quicksilver has to have an extract token or interact with a token for that to work.
Oh wait, does it? I just read it actually, wondering if it does, because the card says specifically
difficult to please.
If he's interacted with or picked up an objective token. Does stealing an objective token counting as picking one up?
It's very
picking.
Oh, it does.
Go ahead.
Because Can I Borrow that specifically says he picks up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does.
Anytime you gain a token, it is counted as picking one up.
Yeah. So that's all that mystery.
Yeah. So a couple updates after Can I Borrow That. There were a few erratas that came in. First one is cloning banks. They clarified for the people that were trying to cheese it, round down, or they added the phrase rounding down to the wording. So obviously 3 is more than half of 4 or 5. So like you would have to actually have 6 for you to be able to do a 3. You'd have to actually have 4 to do a 2. I don't know who was trying to do this, but they added the wording. So because obviously 3 is more than half of 5.
There's a weeb somewhere going, but 2.5 is.
Yeah, it's like, but you round up. Like, yeah, okay.
Everything else in the game is rounding up, though. The game does that generally.
But you says add some. So you think because it says round up, what do you round up on?
Basically in the core rules, it says always basically round up. There's nothing that does that, but it does talk about rounding up. Whereas they had to say no, not with this. It's round down.
Okay.
So they did have to say it because it generally does a round up type deal.
So there was a superfluous rule that did nothing that made this questionable. All right.
Yeah, basically.
Way to go, Pagani.
I know.
At least they added it. Yeah. All right. Next, errata. Surprisingly, also a Mr. Sinister thing. Legacy virus cured. Crisis card is replaced with Deployment C. We already talked about. And finally, Scarlet Witch CP63 Scarlet Witch stat card. Replace the text with Curse superpower with the following. When this character is damaged by an enemy effect, after the effect is resolved, you may use the superpower. The character that caused the effect gains the judgment condition. And that changes the wording, I believe, from being attacked. Any effect after the effect is resolved, you may use this power to attack. Oh, there was a mistype. It said, after this character is damaged by an enemy effect, the attacking character suffers judgment, so they clarified to the character that generated the effect takes the condition. So they just cleaned up some verbiage there. So a lot of stuff we already knew, and then a clarification on how rounding works. You don't round. You just take half. If you only needed 5 to summon a 3-cost guy, that would be a pretty noticeable change to that card.
Yes.
It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is a big deal, trust me. And you'd only need 9 to summon a 5-coster. Turn 4 5-coster. Get some. All right, Parker, go ahead.
Last bit of news is we did get an affiliation list update for the characters that we weren't already printed on stuff. As it turns out, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are Avengers, because everyone is, I guess. I mean, they. What's funny enough is, in my personal opinion, they are the first 2 characters in a long time that actually should be, except maybe Wolverine. So I love that they actually are Avengers, as opposed to Cable and Deadpool, the founding Avengers? ? In the Scarlet Witch also made it into the Defenders, which I guess kinda she helps Doctor Strange out some, I guess. So she's a Defender too.
This has got to be 100% Doctor Strange 2 movie stuff. Like, there's no other reason for that.
Yeah. Mr. Sinister is in Cabal only. We talked about that a little bit earlier. And Quicksilver is in the Inhumans, which is actually got a lot of Marvel Comics universe background there. He does spend a lot of time with the Inhumans in a lot of the Marvel Comics. So that actually makes some amount of sense. But he is an Inhuman, which means he's going to interact with all those Inhuman cards, and they're pretty good. So another Inhuman. So now we've got
another cheap Inhuman, I think is what you mean to say.
Yeah. So it's going to be, well, now we've got Beast, Quicksilver, and Lockjaw. That's a lot of fast movers and moving characters in one faction.
Crystal, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So
I don't know if that makes me look at him again, but yeah.
I did not realize Kingpin was part of Cabal. When did that happen?
Yeah, he's always been.
He's always been? I just never knew it. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he's been.
I was going to say
3 or 4 affiliations, doesn't he? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he has 3.
He has a lot. I knew that. I was going to say, I think the prerequisite for Cabal is if you steeple your fingers, you get to join Cabal. And then
if you steeple your fingers.
Yeah, if you do this, steeple your fingers, it's automatic invitation. They get it in the mail immediately if you ever steeple your fingers. Second point, if you are a model in the game, you get an invite to Avengers. So
yeah.
All right. Cool. All right, so I think that's going to wrap up the news. So Parker can shut up now. No more talking for Parker.
Probation extended.
I actually had something to say. All right.
All right, fine. Go ahead.
Aww.
Just going to increase your probation.
I was actually wondering.
4 episodes.
At what point does everyone just play Avengers because they're the faction with everyone in it? Like, I feel like I'm not saying this is like a joke. It's actually like, isn't playing A-Force, Avengers, Cabal eventually just going to be like a default thing that every list does? Like, because every list will have so many Cabal, Avengers, and A-Force members that you just kind of can. I think it's interesting that there are factions with like 6 characters and there are factions with 30 characters. Like, you know what I mean? It just seems like eventually every list will automatically be 2 factions: some faction and Avengers, some faction and Cabal.
No, I get that. I think it's mostly going to be about, like, do you want to take one of the leaders and do you want to take the tactics cards for them? Like, just because the list qualifies as another affiliation, like, you could build a criminal list and obviously still be qualified to play Cabal, especially with Sin now. But, you know, does that actually do anything for you? Did you bring stuff to make it work? And so what I'm noticing with all these newer releases now is that you're kind of doubling down on one faction instead of playing 2 factions. Because we're getting multiple leaders for a lot of factions, and we're getting multiple playstyles for a lot of factions. So you don't need to go into another faction to get a different playstyle anymore. You can do that within your home faction. And so I think we're going to see more people... Like, right now I'm playing a list that's just all Brotherhood. I didn't take any of the Cabal stuff that I would normally take because I just want to take more Brotherhood stuff. And I think that's going to become more the norm going forward.
I was going to say, that's what I felt like. I've actually felt like playing, honestly, more Avengers because I go, oh, wow. So with Cable and Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, I can play a different kind of Avengers list than I've been playing, which is just the griefing, how stuck in can I get. With getting more characters, it actually lets you do different things, which is... I know that sounds only positive, but the ballooning effect at first makes like there's a part of me that instantly goes, no, don't balloon this faction. Do not just keep adding everyone to this faction because it loses identity. But I guess you gain multiple identities, and so that's good, I guess. Big question mark.
I think identity is so much tactics cards related that regardless of who you jam in there, if you don't take the tactics card, I mean, if you don't have Avengers Assemble and whatever else Avenger card you want, like, then it isn't going to feel like Avengers anyway. It doesn't matter how many cards you put in there, or how many dudes you put. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can put all the PimTech cards you want in a list that doesn't make it an Avenger list.
Mm.
Especially because they suck.
Ant-Man isn't. Listen, Ant-Man
has
never been on the table yet.
Ant-sized uppercut. Ever once? No, but not by anybody?
Nobody's ever played him. There's no way to know if he's actually any good.
Well, I mean, they clearly didn't do playtest games of him, right?
He might be the best. I have no idea. I threw his card away along with it.
He honestly could be the best character in the game. We would have no idea.
I wouldn't know. There's no way to know something like that.
Oh, we also got some new spoilers. Omega Red, which was teased in an art stream previously. We've seen his model on their Facebook page now.
So cool.
They said he's coming out soon, and so whatever soon means. We've also now seen the Jean Grey model, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, flying chick. I was kind of like, I want awesomeness, and she's just kind of, Captain Marvel-ish looking.
Oh, I was actually really surprised. I thought she was much better than I expected Jean Grey to look.
Really?
I thought Jean Grey was going to be very, I don't know, who's a good example? Black Widow-esque, where she's just kind of standing there not doing much. I was like, Jean Grey has never been a really exciting visual, representation of a character.
I actually expected her to be all phoenixed out, because that's
me too.
The pyrotechnic art of her is the cool one, right?
Yeah.
Because telekinesis is not visually very exciting, but the pyrokinesis is. So,
alrighty. Well, that's probably enough news for today. Let's get into some other stuff. So let's talk about currently playing. I've gotten several games in with new Brotherhood 2.0, if you will, and I'm liking them so far. Very happy. I enjoy killing my opponents with the utmost efficiency and then not letting them do stuff. That's been very exciting for me. I think I got the first clone summon in Kansas City. I sent in the clones.
Oh, no.
I did it exactly correct. Turn 1, I forced extraction. My opponent also had a Mr. Sinister, so it was a little dicey. I put the 3 on the thing, turn 1. Turn 2, I had this really interesting thing set up. So when you play forced extraction, you end up with 0 power. So turn 2, you have 1 power. I got a power from Magneto throwing an object because I'm playing Brotherhood. Second turn, I used Scarlet Witch. I threw another piece of terrain, gave him a 3rd power. Then I moved Sinister, and then such fun little playthings, a 3rd guy into a line and did a beam attack hitting 3 people, got 3 genetic tokens, and banked those. Then immediately got dazed, which was pretty fun. But it's okay, because he summoned his friend Valkyrie with 3 power, and then she made everything okay.
I mean, that's pretty... That feels pretty textbook, what you pulled off there. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I was surprised how difficult it felt to pull off. Because getting 3 tokens on turn 2 is really the problem. Because obviously force extraction fixes the turn 1 problem. And being that I had Magneto, I probably could have tried harder to get the 3 tokens, but you have to basically devote your entire turn to getting those tokens, because you have to move people after they've already activated and simultaneously not get Sinister killed. It actually felt very uncommon to pull off.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it a little differently, Sinister ended up getting dazed, but had you kept those tokens and absorbed all the damage, there's no way you're dazing him.
Right.
So that's an interesting concept. It's an interesting play, right?
Embarrassingly, I was dazed by a single attack from Mystique.
What an idiot.
I know, right?
Mystique.
What a moron.
Yeah, Mystique fired her pistol, did 3 damage, and then fired her pistol again, did 4 damage.
Oh.
I was like, okay, I guess that's how this works.
And down.
Mm-hmm. She shot him in both eyes, one at a time.
God.
Yeah.
So did you feel like that was worth the tactic slot and the trouble, or did you feel like,
Well,
okay, I did it, and now I'm winning the game anyway? Like,
so yeah, basically the way turn 2 unfolded was I was able to daze his Mr. Sinister with my Magneto, and since we started within range 3 of each other, that wasn't that surprising.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that's supposed to happen, especially with him having 0 genetic tokens at that point. And then I got my guy dazed, so I was like, we both Sinisters got dazed. There wasn't really much other damage. We were playing Alien Ship. This is a battle report game as well, so this will probably be up by the end of the weekend. So he was trying to find the alien ship. I was completely ignoring it because the whole plan was I had Miles in my back pocket, and if he finds the power core, I can just surprise Miles, steal it, run away, right? Like, that was the plan.
mm-hmm.
And so I could just drop down Miles, Venom Blast with his 3 power, get the token, and run away. And I was like, but then it didn't really happen that way. And he didn't find it until after I had to summon my guy, and so summoning Miles made no sense at that point, so I brought Valkyrie out. But yeah, once Valkyrie hit the table, it felt completely insurmountable at that point.
Were you playing 20 points? Jesus Christ.
19. We played 19. We did the Kansas City special, which was Demons Downtown and Alien Ship Downtown.
Did you have priority, or did he?
He had priority first. I got it from him after that.
Yeah, that was where it went wrong. He let you fucking play 19. I'm like, no.
I told him we can play 20, and he's like, I don't want you to play MODOK. And I'm like,
well, get the
I'm not
fuck out.
going to play MODOK. I'm just going to play Toad and Quicksilver, as dumb as that sounds. I just want to play Brotherhood models. And he's like, I don't believe you. I was like, whatever.
God. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. I was like,
I apparently have a reputation
have
around the store. Well, I showed him my 16-point list of Scarlet Witch, MODOK, and Magneto, and he did not want to play that.
Dude, that's a lot of hate.
That's some angry models right there. And conveniently, they all have cover forever, so they're totally not going to die. Although, Scarlet Witch definitely had several turns on both sides of my games this week where she just blocked 4 on every defense roll. It was just like, cool. Because with auto cover and skulls, she's succeeding on like 75% of her dice. It's fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strong
She gets
16.
blocks skulls, wilds, crits, and then also mod 1.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I think we've learned a lesson here. Don't ever let them play 16. Choose 15, 14.
Choose 15. No, 17's fine. 17 or 18. Well, no, 17. Don't do 18. 17 is what you want to do.
Ugh.
Because you want to make them play down points if they're going to play that silliness. And then also, if you do 17, they just throw in Toad. And it's just even worse. Like...
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So do
guys...
we see? I mean, Brotherhood is new hotness. Do we see Brotherhood climbing even higher up the ranks now?
Well, I don't think Brotherhood was super popular after it first came out. Like, obviously, new models get played a lot, but I think now that Brotherhood has a legitimate amount of models and cards, I think they're going to be pretty popular.
Yeah, they're good.
They also have a lot of fan favorites, you know.
I mean, the game really shines when you play Magneto and see what you can do with a bunch of dice and rerolls and stuff. Like, you can see the game kind of in different ways when you play a character like that, because everybody has a way to get a reroll here and there, and everybody has a character who can roll 6 dice. So even though it wasn't great, just trying to play Brotherhood and put something together without the right amount of models, you could learn things about other factions that also works really well, and the mechanics of the game. And now you actually have, a lot of models to throw in there and do things and still use Brotherhood stuff. That's pretty cool.
Did you guys play any games recently you want to talk about? Any lists you built?
Speaking of Magneto and Thanos made a run for it. They went on vacation together, and they're friends. They're not together per se. They're friends, and they did their thing, right, Brandon? It's on camera.
Are you talking about a game we played? I didn't realize you were trying to reference something.
Yeah.
Sorry, I played games since then. I
understand.
Played games this week.
I understand. Yeah, so I played with them. You lowballed me on the fucking points.
I'm proud about how I played that game.
You lowballed me on the points, and they still came out.
That
on
was
top
a strategy.
because they're gods of
You
Bugman.
lowballed me. You had Magneto and Thanos, and I played 15 points, and you're mad at me.
I wasn't.
You're the
I
one that
wasn't
picked.
mad.
You picked Gamma Wave, and we're mad I didn't choose a 19-point mission against
You
Thanos
selfish,
Magneto.
selfish son of a bitch.
You got to choose the point total. I don't know why you're mad at me. You could have picked a mission that had more points.
Hey, I could have, but I didn't.
You could have chosen 19 or 20 points, but you chose 15.
I had
You're
to.
dumb. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Demons Downtown would have been way worse than Gamma Wave when you don't intend on ever scoring points.
I wanted to score points.
Actually, I would argue that Demons would have been a better overall mission for you. Because there's
Anywho.
no chance you lose on scenario. That's the difference.
You know
As
what
where
though? I
with
played so many.
Gamma Wave.
I played so many games, and that Incinerate is a bitch. I do not like it. It irritates me to death.
You just don't stand on the points.
Ugh. I don't like it.
You're bad at the game.
I'm mad at the game. I'm mad at
No,
everybody.
You're bad with a B. Bad.
Oh, bad.
Bad
B
at
as in
the game.
bad. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine too.
All right.
Whatevs.
Moving on to hobby projects. Parker, I believe you've sawed your hands off, so you don't have to worry about painting. So.
Oh no! New models are coming out.
What did you paint?
And I'm going to have to paint them because I can't wait for cable. I need cable now.
If wishes were dishes, you'd have a full sink.
What? What'd you say?
That's a saying I just made up right now. If wishes were dishes, you'd have a full sink.
That's good. I like that a lot.
I just made that up on the spot.
I like the non-standard rhyme. No, I need my cable.
Jeremy's still trying to do the math. He's like, "Do you have a dish?"
No,
It's like,
that's one of the most like family kid-friendly things you've ever said in your entire life.
Yeah.
well, that's because
Like,
it came to me in a
Wow,
moment
that
of
was just
inspiration.
that was really clean. Well done.
I normally
like
think
that.
of something and then try and pour grease all over it and make it really greasy.
Yeah,
and then I share it with people.
that does sound like something like a grandma would say, surrounded by
Yeah.
tiny spoons and doilies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was good.
Anyway, so Parker has aspirations to paint
Mhm.
that he might
Oh,
choke
my.
on. Jeremy, what do you have?
I have the last
Parker. I love the face.
the last three
Fucking hate that.
It's the double pun.
the last three
dreaded
box
double
sets are together and primed. That's where I'm at with those.
Whoa. This is a rare occasion, ladies and gentlemen. I'm further ahead on painting the new models than Jeremy is. I have completed my Mr. Sinister and Scarlet Witch,
Really?
and I have assembled and primed the rest of them.
Jesus. Okay.
Not tomorrow, Friday, because Friday is my next day off. I plan on painting Quicksilver, Sabretooth, Toad, and Mystique, and I want to have all Brotherhood painted for this weekend.
I do plan on having a few more of my models painted for this weekend, at least Scarlet Witch, if nobody else.
You're coming to the event, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What are you playing? I just want to remind you, it's a casual event because we're gonna
You
have
son of a bitch.
We're gonna have 5 or 6 people there that have never played outside of like demo games before. So I want to have a welcoming environment for those people, and also I want to crush you. So when you show up with a fun list, I'll be
You
there with my
motherfucker.
cabal list.
That is so not cool. You motherfucker. Don't even start.
No, but for real, I'm intentionally not playing my get good list. I'm intentionally playing like a fun.
All right,
list.
you let me see what the fuck you're playing, and then I will mod mine to what you're playing, you motherfucker.
I'm playing Ebony Maw. I'll just say that.
What? You are not. Shut up.
It's not true, but I'll say it.
Yeah.
Dude, I made a display and everything.
Yeah, I know you did. You can show everybody your display.
Yeah. Alrighty. So that's going to get us past hobby projects, and we're going to move on to our pseudo main topic today. I wanted to pick your guys' brains about how you go about list building, and I think this is relevant for right now, because I think there's kind of 2 schools of thought when it comes to how to play a faction, and I know we've kind of touched on this a couple times. I think what I would refer to as an introverted list builder. When I choose a faction, I want that faction to be the identity of my list. And so that's kind of why I haven't been playing Brotherhood of late, because they didn't really have a number of releases that made a full roster. Like, they had 4 models. And so, like, when I want to play a list, it's like, I'm going to play as many Brotherhood models as I can, And if I have to make a succession for like convenience, I might like playing Wong over Toad in Brotherhood, for example. It's like I'm going to play as many as I can, but within reason, I'm going to play Brotherhood. And I might choose a different model if it's just obviously better. But how do you guys play? When you guys are building rosters, are you usually just hitting your bare minimums to hit in faction, and then you're moving on to other models, or do you start by like, here's all the like Avengers models I want to play with, or do you just immediately go, well, here's my 3 Avengers, I'm going to try and find other stuff now?
Do you have thoughts on this, Parker?
I do. I
Go ahead.
always go for a gimmick. Like I always go for like a strategy or something that I'm going to do, and then I look for the faction that's going to facilitate that. So, like right now, I've been big in just like griefing, right? Like how hard can I make the game for my opponent for them to do what they want to do? So if they need to remove my models quickly, how can I make that difficult? If they need to move my models, if they need to manipulate the situation, I'm going to make that really tough. So I'm going to pick crisis cards that make it hard for my opponent. I'm going to pick models that are difficult to remove. I want to be be the steel jaw. Just take it. And so I canvas a game, just regardless of what game I'm playing. I decide what I'm going to do, and then I just canvas the whole game for ways to make that thing happen, whatever it is I want to do, and then I play that. So Avengers do that right now, and they're even getting better at it, which I think is amazing and kind of silly. But as soon as another faction does that gimmick better, as soon as something happens to make that happen somewhere else, I would just drop Avengers like a hat and go somewhere else, if that's what I wanted to play. And eventually I will get tired of that gimmick and I'll move on to a different gimmick, like never touch my opponent, just control and play the objective. And so I'll go to the faction that does that the best. But that is how I usually build lists, is I actually go with strategy first. What's the overall strategy of my win condition? And then I work backwards from there. I want to know, how do I win the game? And then I work backwards across the game, putting the pieces together.
So for you, it basically doesn't matter at all what models you're playing for the affiliation. You only care about including as much of the synergy mechanics that you're looking for. And
yeah,
the last thing once you hit your minimums basically to get affiliated, you just kind of quit at that point.
Yes. I do usually go for a faction because I want something from a faction, like a tactics card or a team.
Sure,
power,
I mean, obviously there's some really powerful effects in the affiliation, so you don't want to just go without.
Right.
But yeah, it looks like you're just trying to get the bare minimums in.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, do you have thoughts yet?
Yeah, I have at least 2. So one thing I like to do is, if I've heard it's good or somebody said something about it and I haven't thought about it, I love to get that in a list. How do I wedge that in there? Like, how do I get to see what this actually does on the tabletop? I'm a player who, like, if I haven't seen it, I just almost don't believe it. Like, I have to actually do it and do it a couple times and be like, oh, that is good. So then sometimes I'll take that and then wedge it into other things and like see what it does and whatever. And then there's the chaos in motion that is kind of like how I do stuff. It could be what's interesting of the day. Again, we've built weird lists just sitting around going, what if we all had beams? What if every character in this list had a beam? You know, like, what does that do?
Beam team?
So
Get him, beam team.
I'm huge on that. I love trying to see what something will do just if you wedge it together. But then again, kind of like I said about Magneto, like, you learn so much by playing different characters. And Magneto's one of, like, he has different things. Like, do you like rolling 5 dice for defense? He can do that. Let me show you what a character does if he can roll 6 dice. 6 dice for defense. What does that guy look like? How does he feel? Okay, he lives through a lot. Great. What is it like to have dice that's re-rolled all of your shit? Like, you can just re-roll it. What is that like? So then you just apply that. Maybe I don't have 6 points. What do I have? Do I have a 4-point model that can kind of do that? Like, I don't know. What, Vision? Vision kind of does that. Miss Marvel does that. So there's a lot of things that I kind of take into account and then try and wedge those things into lists. If I have to choose, I like just doing one list, one faction. And then I'll look at 8, 9 characters and go, is that another faction? Can I just plop something in there? I hate splitting up my tactics cards anymore. I like just doing one faction. Breaking them in half, it really limits you, and I freaking hate that. So sometimes I'll take models in and out based on that. And then maybe even what's your crisis cards? Like, I know that there's some things in the game that I absolutely hate. What can you control? What can't you control? So a lot of times my lists, like actual tournament lists that I think a lot about and care about and want to win with, are specifically what can I actually control? I can control throws. I can control pushes and moving shit, things like that. I really like that. So a lot of times I'll pick models like Valkyrie, Thanos, models that doesn't matter what your opponent does, I will just move you. MODOK, rerolls, things like that. So that's kind of my train of thought, and that kind of sprawls about a giant table, and then I kind of weed through things based on kind of those things. Like I said, chaos.
Yeah, it's a bit of chaos. I don't know what it is, but when I'm going, I'm not trying to do faction purist or anything, but when I'm building a faction, I want there to be enough choices within said faction to do multiple things. And so that's kind of why I avoided Brotherhood for a while, and I was playing, because I'm not a big fan of Toad, aesthetically, and so 3 of my 4 Brotherhood models were also in Cabal, which I had played before, and so it's so much easier just to bring those 3 models into Cabal and not worry about Brotherhood, even though they had some good tactics cards. And so now that the Brotherhood's actually out, I just find myself wanting to play all Brotherhood and not trying to do a Cabal hybrid yet. And so I don't know. In the past, I've liked doing hybrid lists, but I feel myself, and it might be the tactics restrictions, but I kind of feel myself kind of just settling into I want to play one faction at a time again.
I think the tactics cards lend to that now. I think there's so many good ones that having to split yourself up and not take basically everything that you want all the time is kind of tough. It's kind of tough on you in your list. And I mean, there's also, we haven't really mentioned what's your meta. If you're coming to a game or playing Tabletop Simulator, whatever, however you're playing, if you don't have an answer for certain things, you're dead. So when you're building a roster and you don't have anything to deal with MODOK, you're done. If you don't have the way to get back into the game, with charges or extra movement cards or whatever, you'll simply be bowed out of the game, period. You will auto lose. So, taking those things into account is important too.
I think.
You want to know the only thing I consider in meta play?
What's up?
I do not consider what my opponent will be playing. I just know that if I'm playing Jeremy, we're playing on camera. That's the only thing I care about. Because every time we don't play on camera, it's the most epic game ever. It's the most ridiculous bullshit happens in our games when we don't film it. And it makes me really annoyed. And so if I play Jeremy, it will be on camera. Because, do you remember that freaking Cabal game? Or no, it was Cabal Asgard, I think you were playing? I think you were playing Asgard. It was Loki. I know you had Loki and Valkyrie. I think you had Thor as well. But yeah, I used Magneto's his AoE attack, and I stunned Thor, Magneto, MODOK, Valkyrie, and Loki with one attack, and you were so mad. And it was the longest drawn out game. It came down to turn 6, and it literally was I move here. If I don't damage MODOK, I lose the game. It's move, attack. Thank God I won. It was so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all I think about when I play meta games. I don't actually consider at all what my opponents might be playing.
Yeah.
But it's probably pre-built into my brain.
Yeah, I was going to say,
if I don't have answers to things, I won't play the list.
Correct. So I mean that's a quick balance that you're already automatically doing. But I feel like some of these things that we talk about, or people might talk about, I'm going to take all 2-point models. Okay. Well, I mean, there's some things that aren't going to stack up. Magneto and MODOK will mow down 2- and 3-point models. They'll just all be gone.
Will they though? Will they?
They will. They're gone.
Oh, okay then.
They're dead.
All right, Parker, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that I think actually trying to picture what your opponent's going to do, or to prepare for your opponent, trying to build basically a blue deck in Magic to make sure you're going to counter everything, is a really difficult way to play miniatures games. for two reasons. One, I think it weakens your game plan. Like I said, I'm always going for my game plan. Like, can I make mine as airtight as I possibly can so that it doesn't necessarily matter what my opponent does, because my opponent can bring a counter and I need to be able to recognize the counter and adjust accordingly. But can I make the thing that I'm going to do so consistent that my opponent will have to play against me? So even though they brought their MODOK or their Fantastic Model or their really great tactics card, it doesn't matter if it goes off because my tactic has already won. Like, my strategy has already won. And that would be like the best case scenario. That'd be the most amazing list you could build, because in this game in particular, and you guys were alluding to it just now, like the fact that I couldn't get the thought out, you guys got to it, which is you do a lot of the counter play where you're actually trying to imagine what your opponent's going to do and preparing for that. Actually, when you get to the table, because you get the ability to see the models that they could possibly bring, you get to see their tactics cards, you get to know what the mission is going to be, and so then you can make that counterplay choice. And that's why you don't bring exactly just a fixed list. You bring a myriad of models that allow you to modify your strategy ever so slightly. But the fact that the game has affiliations, and you're probably playing one affiliation when you go to the table, you can usually plan on your strategy going off most of the time if you've made a sound strategy. If you've made a sound strategy when you're list building, and when you make a sound strategy and you make sure that you can do that really well, you're going to win the majority of games, because in every single game there is, doesn't matter if it's a card game or a miniatures game or a video game, you're never actually winning every game because of variance. Variance will take that away from you every time. Part of variance is what your opponent has, and part of variance is the roll of the dice. But you're trying to get a winning record, right? You're not trying to get a perfect record.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I'm going for perfect. That's why I only play Parker.
I beat you. I beat you in the first game I ever played.
Never happened. The demo game? I agree.
No, actually,
demo game, you won the shit out of that.
No, it was not a demo game. It was, I was playing Wakanda, you were playing Asgard, and your Thor shat the bed so hard that he couldn't do jack or shit.
The demo game.
I'm pretty sure we had a demo game, and then I played Wakanda because anyway.
I appreciate your compliment that I'm so good at playing through demo games. You didn't even feel like it was a demo game.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that you gave me the win. Yeah.
And Brandon also won't lose a demo game just because it's a demo game. He'll still beat you. He does that. He's shitty like that. He's like, the worst.
I try, actually. You should see Parker in demo games. He's like, all right, Sorsha double wind rushes feats. And
I do not do that. I do not do that bullshit. I call bullshit.
Real time.
I call bullshit.
I saw the second demo game I saw you play was Lilith 2. Like, just fucking turn one assassin.
I did not. Why are you making this shit up?
Because I want people to hate you. No, but for real, I was asked way back in the day if I thought you should be added to the PG program, and I said probably not. But he's a great guy.
Yeah,
like, he will just noob stomp people. Like, he cannot dial it down. That was me saying this.
Yeah.
It's like Parker cannot dial it down.
I'll be first to admit that I have a really hard time going to a table and not playing to win. Like, I have a really hard time with that. And I also I love teaching people to play and getting excited about play. That I will definitely stand beside your game board for your demo game and walk you through it. I am a patient teacher, so I will definitely help you with that. But to play across from you in your first game, I'm not the person you want to play across from in your first game. That's not me.
I have like 3 stages of patience. Like, my first stage is very much like Parker. I have like infinite patience. I'm very calm. I'm very helpful. Then I get into like second tier. Once you've gotten me to a certain point of frustration, I'm like, all right, I'm still polite and I'm still helpful, but we're gonna start taking some shortcuts. Yeah. and then we get to stage 3 where I'm like, just fucking do it. Like, I'm not helping you anymore. Just do the thing. I'm done with this. And so I try as hard as I can to stay in stage 1, but that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have this really bad habit from being a press ganger for Privateer Press, where I would teach a lot of people how to play. And I would play a lot of the people that were struggling and trying to get better. Is I will almost automatically, subconsciously play to my opponent. If my opponent is playing lax and like not care, screw around, let's have fun, I will do that too, even if I'm trying to win. It's like, because I've just spent so long trying to develop that, I'm going to play even with my opponent no matter what happens. And so if they do really dumb stuff that's going to cost them the game, I'll do the same thing. I'll do it right back. I'll start making really bad decisions and like silly things that don't matter. Like I'll go like track down somebody that's like running away even though I should be taking the control points. But I don't intentionally lose games ever. And so I do intentionally put the game within your grasp, but I will not intentionally lose.
That's actually I've seen you do that. I've seen you like when somebody's, just when somebody starts goofing and like they're moving models, like I'm going to move here, and then the next turn you'll be like, all right, I'm going to move this here, and I'm standing there going, like you didn't have to
Thor
do that.
double
like,
moves
no,
and throws
I'm
you off the
as... point
that you were trying to get. You're like, why? It doesn't help you. It's like, I know. It's like, but I do it anyway. But yeah, so it's a problem in competitive games, and I think a lot of people view it, like Jeremy, view it as not enough in super casual games. But as far as I'm concerned, if people are playing, quote, casual games or learner games, they should be, the victory condition should be put within your reach, but you should have to go get it, right? That's the way I view learner games.
I don't disagree.
And so if we're going to do it, like, I'm not going to just randomly move off all the secure points at the end of a game so that you get another turn. But I will, like, not pick up an extract that's within range of one of my models and instead attack you, because if I go get it, I'll win. I'll do something like that, right? Where it's like, I'll make a decision that is non-optimal to give you another chance, but I'm not going to make decisions that actively lose me the game.
I mean, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, in a way, I've never, like, look, I just played that game versus Jason. I didn't give it to him by any means, but I didn't play my strongest list against him. And I played that list as best I could, and he got me. I mean, it was a good game. And sometimes I feel like you can get a good game and learn some stuff. You don't always have to be, foot to the floor. I mean, I definitely get that.
I definitely used to be that way, like, 10 years ago. Like, I used to get anxiety about playing games, like, back in the day when I was a kid. Like, I would get anxiety about going up to game night and playing games. It's like, oh, man, every game matters so much. And then, I don't know when it was, probably when I turned, like, 20. And I was like, these games don't actually matter. Like, we don't keep score or anything. like none of these games, like, we're just playing for fun. And then, so I got a lot more laid back after that happened.
I actually had to tell people when I was in Syracuse as press ganger, like, truly, and try and get it through their head in this philosophical manner of, like, think about what your opponent is going to think about you tomorrow. Like, you're being such a douche and a dick, and none of that matters, and you're going to forget all about it, but you're the asshole that's burned in their brain for years to come. Like, none of it fucking matters, dude. None of it. It doesn't matter. Like, even the best players, some of the best players of some of the hardest games, I mean, Privateer Press, lining that up, like, some of those guys are really good and really cool to play with. Like, it's a state of mind and a way to do it. There's a kind of a zen to be in.
I absolutely loved watching you play, and you were technically still a press ganger, but you hadn't done anything press gang in a long time, I think, at this point. But back when Tabletop was at its last location, and we would be in there, and you would play these people, and I don't want to call them out by name, but basically it's people that do bullshit. And so it's people that would, like, argue about, like, takebacks or, like, not want to, like... I remember one game specifically where you supposedly, like, didn't mark a token somewhere when you totally did. Or there was this other guy that wanted to have somebody else roll his dice that, like, was not paying attention to the game. And every time, I know you remember that one.
Yeah,
and every time Jeremy just puts on his manager voice of having to deal with teenagers on a daily basis and just goes, "We're not doing this anymore. Are you ready to move on?" And he's just like, and the person had never been called out in their adult life for their bullshit. And it was so amazing to watch because it was just like, finally, we don't have to put up with this anymore. And it was like that every time. It was so good.
I'm notorious. I am notorious.
You're not having a third party roll all your dice for you that isn't even paying attention to the game. I'm not going to wait 30 seconds for you to get their attention every time you need to make a die roll. Like, we're done with this.
So just a little side note on the bullshit that I won't put up with, and I'm one of the only people I've ever seen do it, and I fucking hate it, and I will not put up with it. The cracked die scenario with a die lands on a piece of paper and they call it cracked and they're going to re-roll it. I will halt that shit like a train into a fire. Like, no. Like,
Part the Red Sea. We're not re-rolling this die.
You ain't re-rolling
I
shit.
will fight you.
I'm not re-rolling shit. What does that say? Oh my god. Oh, having to treat these people.
I love the people that think that balancing a die on it is how you decide if a die is cocked or not. Like, have you not seen this?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's the international standard on if a die is cocked or not. Can you set another die on top of it and have the die not fall off? If it doesn't fall off, it's flat and you count it. If it does fall off, you have to re-roll it.
Well, how did you know?
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because have you ever tried to stack dice anyway? Well, like over a table, reaching across the table to put a die on top of a die that's on top of something else. Like, it's so stupid anyway.
Well, and how would you know what
D8s.
face to?
Like, what?
How would you know what face to stack a die on? I mean, it's impossible to tell what side that's up.
It's cocked. You don't know what side's up. Like, I can't tell. It's so stupid. So when I used to use a dice tray, I was like, if it's not flat, I'm re-rolling it. And so anytime it wasn't, but you need to make that establishment beforehand. Mm-hmm. And so I would always say that when I start a game, it's not flat, I re-roll.
What were you saying, Parker?
I was going to say, Jeremy, you were the very first person I ever played that I really appreciated your table etiquette. Not because the other people other people I've ever played were monsters or anything. It's just I'd only played in very small communities until I started playing it at tabletop. And you were the very first person to just say out loud in a very, very matter-of-fact way, just like, no, we're playing like this. Like, this is the way we're playing. And I remember going like, I love that. I loved it because you told me, I remember you told me, just like, no take-backs, you pick you put a model down, that's what we're playing. You roll a dice, that's what it is. That's what we're going to play. And I remember going like, wow, like, this is not going to be a beer and pretzels kind of experience. This is he wants to play the game as designed. I loved it. And I also loved like the bravery, right? Just you're telling me out loud. And so like you were by far my favorite person to play with those early days at tabletop when I started playing more than just the people played around. And the reason why is I knew every time I played you, it wasn't going to be like you said, right? What do you think of when you leave the table of that person? I knew I had an expectation that I was going to play an upright game. I was going to learn things about the game. I wasn't going to learn, that my opponent was a douche. I was going to learn that, something about the models. And I always really appreciated, those games, those early games, the very first time I ever kind of stepped out of my tiny little bubble in Lawrence and started playing with more people. Because I learned so much about being on a table and being honest about what was going on the table. Man, that was a great time. I forget about those times, early learning how to do tables. And that's also when I started to like determine how it is that I like to play the game. Because you asked me questions like those kind of questions. It's like, what do you want to do? You'd ask me those kind of questions. I was like, what do I want to do? It was like, well, I want to never die ever. So I'm going to do this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, what are you trying to accomplish here?
Yeah. Or you'd ask me questions like, you always get your Warcaster killed. You always get him killed. Why don't you just not let him have a gun? Just play Warcasters that don't have guns. And I was like, yeah.
Stop doing that.
Well, no, you either need to play a Warcaster that's supposed to shoot people or a Warcaster that can't shoot people. Those are the two Parker needs to play.
Yeah. That's actually probably, you asked like, how do I build lists? That's actually the thing that I probably do the most, which is I go, once I learn enough about a game, which you don't know initially, but once I learn enough about the game, I actually let my playstyle usually be my guide. Like, what is it that I lean into automatically? What models accomplish that? Because I found out that I can be a real just square peg round hole kind of person. I really like this model because it's blue or it's my favorite Marvel character, but when it doesn't interact with the game in a way that I will interact with the game, then I can just expect to lose all the time because I'm not doing it right. So if I found out that if I play models like Captain America, which are very difficult to kill, and that I can overextend and expect to not automatically die, I will have a more enjoyable game experience, even if I lose, because I like to overextend my commander. I like them to be in the middle doing shit. So things like that. I think
people forget what it is that, or maybe they don't know. They forget, or they don't know what they enjoy about playing a tabletop game, because they only look at, how do I win, or like, I'm just trying to win, and once I win, it will be fun. Well, that's really the wrong way to look at all of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I usually tell those people, when they're so concerned about getting the win and not concerned about learning or improving, I'm like, I'll tell you what, I concede. Can we keep playing now?
I know.
Like, let's just move past this bullshit. It's like you can tell the people that haven't gotten the prerequisite number of wins to feel comfortable as themselves, right? Like the people that think they still have something to prove, and there's nothing that's going to get you to that point except you. Like, if you find yourself trying to like take shortcuts or like get an advantage over somebody, like not letting them have a take back sometime, or trying to re-roll a die that you probably shouldn't be trying to re-roll or anything like that, it's like, just stop and think, is like, does one random game win really matter to you? And then maybe you should try and just start focusing on things that you can actually improve on to get those wins. And if the number of wins, like the actual number totaled up, matters to you, then I guess start keeping track, because nobody else is.
That's a fact.
I have a bellwether for how I know I'm enjoying a game, and it's after I do like really well in a tournament and I crush it all day long, and I get to the final round and I lose everything, like I just get it, I get table flipped and handed to me. Do I still want to play the game after like 20 minutes? Like that, after that initial blow to my ego, and I'm like, oh man, I lost all that time, spent, and it just kind of puffs into the wind. But after that initial grieving moment, am I then like right back to list building, like right back to when am I going to play my next game? That's how I know I'm enjoying myself, because even when I lose, I am still excited about the next opportunity to play. Because if you're losing and then mad about your opportunity to play, you probably shouldn't be doing the hobby. You probably should be doing something else with your time. And
when I mess up in a game and like forget to do something or put something in a bad position, I'm not mad I'm going to lose. I regret that I made the mistake and I didn't recognize it in the moment. And so I basically regret that I lost the opportunity to see how the game would have been had I done it correctly. But at no point I'm like, oh man, I lost. Now I'm mad because I lost. Like, that doesn't matter. I'm mad that I played badly.
Well, it's that, it's that mental punishment that makes you next time do it correctly, and without it, you would never do it correctly, and you just continue to fail.
Right. Like, the people that constantly get allowed takebacks are the people that always want takebacks.
Yep. I usually, like, my rule of thumb is, if you get a takeback and you really need it, I'm going to bank one, so we both get mulligans. Cool? Mm-hmm. And most of the time, people will tell you, never mind. Because I will take it.
Oh, I find the opposite to be true. Almost always, like, yeah, let's do that. Like, okay, so that's interesting that you have the opposite interactions a lot of the time. Interesting.
But most people I play is with, you guys and Jason, whatever. Like, most people don't really ask for takebacks.
We usually don't ask for it. Yeah.
Unless it's a learning game, which all these are really. And most of the time, it doesn't make that much difference. But most of the time, we don't do takebacks at all. I mean, that's not really a thing.
I know me and Carl, when we were still playing War Machine competitively, we would be in the middle of a tournament game, and we would, like, forget to feed or forget to cast spell or something. Be like, hey, I concede. Do you mind if I keep playing the game as if I hadn't done this wrong? And your opponent's just like, what? Like, I guess. Like, cool. I cast the spell. Next activation. And you're like, but you concede. It's like, yeah, but I want to keep playing the game. Is that all right? You're like, I guess. It's like because it didn't matter. Like, it was just a local tournament. It's like, you get to win, but I want to see what happens if I do this correctly. Alrighty, well, we probably rambled a bit about that. Parker, did you choose a comic corner today? Like a good boy?
I didn't have a comic corner.
Alrighty.
There are no good comics.
There's no good comics. There's no good comics.
What are
you talking about? I'm sure you have a Peter Parker comic ready to go.
I actually need I actually realized the other day that I have not read a new comic. I've been rereading stuff. I always constantly reread stuff. But I haven't read a new comic, I think, in like 3 or 4 months. I'm jonesing. I need to go crack open the wallet and go get something.
Hey, the Amazing Spider-Man panel play came out, so just go get your Amazing Spider-Man #1 and just talk about that. That's on the shelf, right? It's just over there?
No.
Sitting on the shelf?
My favorite, the only comic I have over there on the shelf that is a free comic, just like one single comic and not a graphic novel, is a Spider-Man comic. It's the very first comic book I ever bought. I know exactly where I bought it and when I bought it. I have it sitting in a sleeve. It's the only comic that I will never, ever part with for any reason. I think I'm going to put it in my coffin.
What is it?
That's where I want it to go.
Oh, wow.
It is... So back in the early 90s, Marvel did these kind of promotional comics. It is an Amazing Spider-Man title. And so they did these like promotional short comics that were just like retellings of popular stories, and they were like very short one-ofs. You can see how like thin it is. It's like small print, and it was just meant to get people.
Can't see how thin it is.
Sorry, yeah. You guys can see it over the video, but it's just this short kind of mini comic thing. It only has it's only like 20 color pages, and it's just designed to do exactly what it did for me, which is to get me into it. It was supposed to. It cost 20 cents at Walmart. The sticker is still on the back. And it was designed to do exactly that. It says, I'm trying to find like a publisher, 1990. Yep.
Wow.
So I would have been 5 years old, and yeah, I had 2 of them. Amazing Spider-Man: The Origin of Spider-Man tells you like the origin story, and Spider-Man on the Waterfront, where he teams up with Silver Sable and Sandman to go beat up some bad guys. And actually, the artist who did the On the Waterfront issue is actually super famous Amazing Spider-Man artist. He's the guy who invented the like ridiculous amount of webs in every picture. You guys remember this guy? Like every single panel has infinity webs all around Spider-Man at all times. And you might remember his name. His name is Todd Mcfarlane.
A little
He's
bit.
an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was one of Todd McFarlane's contributions to the Marvel Comics universe, a little one-shot comic with Amazing Spider-Man on the title. But yeah, these are the 2 first comics. This started it all. This is the reason why Spider-Man is my ultimate fave, and the reason why I will probably continue playing Avengers until Spider-Man comes out, and then I will only be playing the Amazing Spider-Man because I want to go do a beat up Web Warriors. That sounds awesome.
So every list will begin with Amazing Spider-Man plus it doesn't matter. Just fill it in.
So I guess that's an interesting time to talk about that. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I'm sad you can't play both Peter Parkers in a roster. Like, that's going to actually make people decide what kind of Web Warriors they're going to play right from the get-go.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I don't know how much. I thought about this exactly, because I've already done some list building for it. And when I got done, I don't think it does a whole lot because neither like Team Power really focuses hard on the objective game. Miles does a little bit because if you're close to objectives, then you get a passive bonus, but it's not like you don't get a bonus for being an objective capturer. You just get a passive bonus for playing the game, basically, as it's intended, which is after objectives. So I think what's actually going to happen is instead of playing Spider-Man, you'll just play one of the other amazing 4-point control characters that have come out since Spider-Man, like Enchantress, or something like that. Something that you can count on to continue to play the objective game when you want to play Miles' team affiliation.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also sad you can't play Peter Parker with Peter Parker because they're so different.
We need clones. Send in the clones.
Personally, I love this. Let me put it this way. I don't like the original Spider-Man in this game so much that I'm so happy not to play him and feel justified. Because I feel like I have to play him in a Web Warriors list because he's so good at control, and that's how that's their kind of pigeonhole right now. But I love that I can play a 5-point Spider-Man who's going to beat the shit out of you. I love that so much. Oh man, I am so excited to not play a Spider-Man who all he does is I'm just going to move you 3 inches to the left and then 3 inches back and then 3 inches forward and let's see if I can get a wild. I did, so you move 3 inches this way and then I'm going to die or not.
He
I
doesn't
love
die that easy.
I love that that's not my plan with my Spider-Man because my Todd Mcfarlane Spider-Man has a lot of webs around him and he kicks people in the face and that's what I want to do.
Mm. Yeah, I think Amazing Spider-Man is going to be a big ad for a lot of good lists. I think he's going to be pretty scary. Like he's very, very hard to kill. Like that dude is really hard to kill.
Nah, it's like one attack from Scarlet Witch. It does both sides. It does both sides.
You just skip through being dazed. He just goes to KO'd immediately.
It's like the Hulk Ultimate Encounter. It just says, if this character dazes an enemy, they are KO'd. Not like at the other turn, just immediately.
I hate this game. This game sucks.
No field dressing for you.
I'm out. Stupid.
God, how good would that ability be?
Just to be able to KO people with one hit. One punch man.
If a character was released tomorrow and it had a rule said that characters that this character dazes cannot be field dressing. How good is that rule? 6 out of 10?
That this character cannot be field dressing if hit by this character. Is that what you're saying?
Any character this character dazes cannot be field dressing.
It says specifically field dressing on the card. I don't think they'll do that, but I see your point.
It only says field dressing.
It cannot be healed this round.
Nope, just field dressing.
Just field dressing, anti-field dressing tag.
It says the words field dressing in quotes.
Okay.
Hot take. I wonder if Executioner will actually have can't be healed. Like that's the part of this. He's on the tactics card. If they ever do put him into the game, I wonder.
We're not getting Executioner. How dare you?
He's
gonna be the only character forever that's on a card that's not in the game.
I think they'll make him eventually because he's already in one. He's already in one Thor movie. He's likely to be in the next one. I think you'll see him.
He's in a Thor movie?
I guess that's true. Yeah, he plays by Carl Urban.
Oh,
yeah,
he has that.
I got these in Texas.
Okay. But he dies in the movie.
This one's called Dez, and this one's called Troy. Because when you put them together, they destroy.
Yeah. He's a comic book character. He can be brought back. We'll bring him back.
And he's Asgardian. Okay.
Does he die?
Yeah,
in the movie he does. Yeah.
Do they show him die?
Yeah, he gets
stabbed.
He
just
is
disappeared into the fight
when the guy destroys Asgard in fire and death.
Do they just not show him getting off of Asgard? Maybe the explosion blew him to safety. You don't know. Have you gotten that far in Always Sunny? That's pretty early on.
I don't know.
They run at a car with a grenade and you can't die to an explosion. It'll just blow you to safety.
Oh my God.
I don't think that's how explosions work. But they do some poppers, so they do it anyway.
Oh my God.
So the way the last moment we see him in the movie, he gets stabbed by Hela after he defends all the people. He jumps off of
I remember he jumps off and he starts shooting all the undead Asgardians. Then he runs out of bullets. He starts hitting them with the M16s. And I thought he got beat up at some point, but do they actually show him die, or does he just get hurt?
Well, no, he gets she sends one of those flying swords straight through his chest, and he falls down, and he's there on the ground. By the way, for any listener out there, Scourge is his name in the movie, but Executioner is his comic book alter ego also.
Yeah, he becomes Hela's Executioner.
Yeah.
I think they got that through context.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. Every time you guys say Amazing Spider-Man and I look at his card again, I just stare at it for a little while.
By look at his card, do you mean panel to play? Because that was just released.
That's true. Yeah. The panel to play
was just released. I don't know where you're getting your information.
Is he
getting information from the card that was released 2 months
I
ago?
know.
I mean, that's probably one of the more bold things I've seen a company release in the last 2 years. It's like, here's a panel to play on that thing we showed you 2 months ago. But do you understand how panel plays work?
I was going to say, who wrote that panel to play? Because surely whoever that was going, what? Why? Why do I have to feign excitement in text form for like
Parker,
a
you
whole
understand.
essay?
You gotta be so far outside the box that you can see yourself looking at the box from outside the box.
Yeah.
That's how far outside the box you gotta be.
It feels
Pretty far.
so weird to basically just learn kind of like what Sinister adds to the game, yet we own him, and all of the X-Force shit is not out yet. That feels really bizarre to me.
3 weeks. You just gotta wait 3 weeks.
I'm over it. I'm not buying any of it. Throw it away.
You're over it? Oh, okay. I'll throw yours away and still charge you for it. Dude, you got all the money now. You just got that big raise.
Yeah.
You got that forced raise. You're like, do you want more money? You're like, nah, not really. He's like, well, we're gonna give you more raise. He's like, please don't. Here's more money. God damn it.
Yep. That's my life.
That's
So 3 weeks, it's out. We'll have Cable and all that business. I want to try Domino. She's the only one of that bunch that
Yeah.
I really think is good.
I'm really disappointed with Cable. He just doesn't look fun to play. Because I don't think he'll generate enough power to actually do his stuff outside of Avengers. And Avengers is kind of like a solved equation at this point for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't
he-
actually
so,
know
yeah.
how much I don't know how often you'll see him in Avengers, even though I'm excited to play him. Because when you talk about 5 points in Avengers, I feel like he is an Avengers character, so that's the benefit over something like Ghost
He
Rider.
replaces
'Cause-
Thor in Avengers. You
Yeah.
won't play Thor anymore in Avengers.
Right. I think if they print once Captain America 2.0 is out, if he comes with a bunch of cool Avengers cards, Cable will get even more alluring over other great Avengers characters that are not Avengers like Ghost Rider.
16 points in Avengers is Cap, Cable, Doctor Strange, and the Time Stone.
Yeah.
In which you may declare that none of my models will die, but I will still lose.
Who
Yeah.
wants to live forever?
Yeah, I think Cable's one of those characters that's just going to be like, when you see him across the table, because he is a pain in the ass to probably get off the table, and he's going to be annoying you from turn 1 to turn 4 or 5 before you kill him. But I just don't. He doesn't seem to have the edge that like Sinister has, because he's got cool shit on his cards. I wish Cable had something like that to kind of bring him to a cool thing. Like, I just feel like he's just, I don't know, like vanilla pudding, like, just plain yogurt. Okay.
He just doesn't seem like a 5-point character to me.
Yeah.
He seems more like a 4-point character. Or he should have more power, I think. Or do a little bit more damage, and then I could justify 5 points.
Wait, okay, hold on. I'm not mad, but where he already gets 2 power a turn. He has a range 5/5 die attack that causes incinerate on.
It's the 5-die attack with a move short on a medium. He's going to get attacks, but it's not just about that he's getting to attack. He still has to stand in the correct place. And so he's going to spend a lot of his power just trying to get to the control points to contest things. And then, like, maybe I'm wrong. We're going off the stat card right now. We haven't played the model, but and then I feel that he doesn't do enough damage. Like, how many times have you rolled 5 dice attacks not generating a lot of power? Like, he's a lot like Thor, except Thor rolls 6 dice, and Thor doesn't feel like he does enough damage for 5 points. Like, I don't see where the damage is coming from.
Go ahead.
You're basically paying 5 points for a defensive character at that point.
Well,
which is fine.
Go ahead.
Good. No, I'm done.
I was going to say, I think that's exactly what you're paying 5 points for. You're not paying 5 points for an offensive powerhouse. You're paying 5 points for consistent, like, ticking of damage. Like, I think he's going to fire twice every single time he activates.
But
I don't think he's...
Doctor Strange is just better at that job. Because not only does he defend people, he heals them. He generates more power with his mechanics, and he does more damage. You're just giving up range 5 for range 4 and speed medium. And he has access to the Infinity Stones.
I was going to say access is also kind of a tax. If you're playing a list where you don't have space for the stones and you don't want to pay 7 points for a character, that could make it worse. Like Cable could be more alluring for that reason.
I think naked Strange is better than Cable.
You heard it here first.
I think you got
first,
to
folks.
I think you have a fair point.
Strange also adds a lot of control that Cable doesn't have.
I think I'll actually say that I do not know if Naked Strange is as good as Cable because Strange actually does have a power problem. Because I don't think Strange is getting enough power without stones to do all the things that he wants to do. Where I think Cable will actually have enough power.
Cable will only have enough power in Avengers though, and in Avengers, Strange has plenty of power.
Okay, you've played Doctor Strange more than I have, so I will believe you. I do not think you're telling tales out of school. I think
it's mainly the healing is so much better than you think it is in Avengers. Because in Avengers, your guys will actually live long enough for the healing to matter.
Right. Yeah, maybe I think it's one of the reasons why Cable feels so meh is because I don't know what problems he solves right now. Like if you
2 defense dice is not impressive without dice mods.
Right. Like it seems like he seems great at compounding problems, but he also doesn't fix anything. Like the Avengers were already living forever, and like you said, there's a 5-point character that will heal as well as give them defensive potential.
Right. His leadership is probably the worst in the game.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything offhand that's worse.
Yeah. Also, like if you want to talk about a character that does really interesting things with the power discount, like Ghost Rider and Doctor Strange both do. So, yeah. It's
because Strange is always using a power on enemy turns and on his turns.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying there's such a gap that there's no question you would play Cable, because if you're low on affiliated characters, you should play Cable. But if you're not low on affiliated characters, I think Strange is a better choice.
The one thing I think Cable will do that is nice for after playing Avengers in the style that I have is that he is kind of an anchor piece on a back scenario point that will be able to contribute to the rest of the game. Because Avengers, without using Hawkeye, is really the only one they have right now that can do that. Iron Man, kind of, but both Iron Man and Hawkeye are not going to contribute as much to the game plan as Cable. So if you have the points to spend on him, and he can sit on that back point, he's going to be really effective at contributing to the game because he's going to be able to give everybody defense in the middle, and he's going to be able to do that passive damage all the turn, every turn that Iron Man and Hawkeye may not be able to do as well. And maybe, I don't know. I think I agree with you. I fired Hawkeye's bow so many times and it did nothing. The plasma rifle's the same difference.
It's actually worse. Hawkeye's gun is better.
Right. So like it's
actually noticeably worse.
Yeah. I think maybe his throw is super strong, maybe, but there's also lots of characters that Avengers like that throw.
Well, this is the thing, though. His throw is good, but you're not going to be using it holding a back point.
Right. Yeah.
So you're going to be spending all of his power to get up the table to get to a point where he can actually affect the scenario and use his throw. But by the time he's done that, you spent like 6 power or multiple actions that you didn't need to spend. Because Strange is faster than most models, is where Cable's slower than most models.
Yep, I'm not falling over myself, tripping over myself for Cable, but I think I want to drop into Adventures and see what it does. Does it fix all my problems or not? We'll see.
Yeah, I think his throw is a big deal. It really is. Like, the throw is really what makes the difference. But I think if they had just capped it at size 3 throw, then he probably would have been a 4-point model. He seems very comparable to Vision to me. He's better than Vision, but he's very comparable. Yeah,
I think he's super obnoxious. I mean, Hawkeye is pretty fucking obnoxious most of the time. And, in a souped up version of Hawkeye, who, he's not quite as good at shooting, but he's way better at surviving. So a Hawkeye that's more middle table can be very obnoxious. He's just touching whoever he wants to, and he's just obnoxious.
He's not really that survivable, though. Like, the telekinetic shield, he'll probably get to do 2 times per side on himself if he's actually getting targeted. 13 hit points is good, but, like, this guy is, like, Venom hard to kill. Like, not that hard, but, like, decently hard. But he's not, like, exceptionally hard, and he's a 5-point model.
Yeah.
I think Scarlet Witch is harder to kill than he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there we go. The fact that Scarlet Witch exists in the game also at the same, nearly the same time and is 5 points and also an Avenger, you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to swallow.
He's a support model that's 5 points. It's just too much.
Yeah, and then it shifts back into, okay, he's a leader of X-Force, so if you want to play X-Force, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah,
I don't think
then
X-Force...
he's the worst leader in the game.
Yeah, I don't think X-Force currently adds anything to the game. I think that individual models are
I
interesting.
like their models.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I like their models. So looking over at Strange has 1 less total hit point, but he's got an additional defense in energy, which I would argue is better than 1 hit point, especially on the injured side. I would argue his Bolts of Bedevilment is a better attack, even if you don't include the fact that he gets to reroll once per roll. His Crimson Bands is 100% better than Asani Sun. And then his leadership is way better. He has the exact same shielding rule, but also he has the ability to heal people. Also, he can reroll skulls. Also, he gets to reroll 1 full roll per attack or defense roll, as where Cable, only when he's leading, has the ability to reroll 1 die on attack. And then he also gets a power every time he rolls a block, which I would say is actually going to end up netting him more power in the long run. Yeah, he's just better. But the question is, do you have to have another Avenger? But I don't know that you pick Cable, but I don't think he's a terrible choice.
I thought it was so weird that Inhumans came out and then X-Force was supposed to come out around the same time initially. And the X-Force ability is so shitty compared to the Inhuman ability. And I mean, they're kind of the same, but the Inhumans get an additional.
Do what? What do you mean?
Well, they get to do either, like defense or...
No, that's not their leadership ability. Their leadership ability is to hand out power, which is definitely still better than X-Force.
Oh, true. That's their, yeah.
Yeah, that's a racial.
That's just an ability, yeah.
So the X-Force characters in their other affiliations are all like better than they are in X-Force.
Cable's just a bad leader is the problem.
Don't talk about him. He's listening. He's not in the room right now. You're not supposed to say things about someone if they're not in the room.
So
Cable is our
how about
only
this?
ally.
Hold on. I want to ask you guys an honest question. Given your knowledge of how much of a whore Marvel is for Wolverine, will we get a second Wolverine at some point?
Oh, another X-Force leader Wolverine? I would be 100% behind that. I would love to see that.
Get like Old Man Logan or like Angry Wolverine.
Yeah.
As like the leader of X-Force.
X-Force, yeah.
Or just a Weapon X. Dude, that would be fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Just straight up Weapon X Wolverine.
I want to see as you know what I see as the leadership for X-Force 2 is spend 1 power, mod 1 attack die to a wild.
Oh shit.
That's hot.
Cool. Yeah.
That's spicy.
Oh man, that might be insane.
That might be good, right?
You can
take. Well, that's probably.
Oh, that'd be good.
That's probably enough speculation for today. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap up?
No.
Oh, sorry. One more thing. Does anyone want to take my bet? I'm betting that we're getting a Ruski pack, which is going to be Omega Red and Colossus in 1 pack. Does anybody want to take a bet against that?
No. That is
it's
so
guaranteed,
likely.
Right?
That is so
That's
likely.
so going to happen. Shaved head bet? Anybody? Anybody?
I'm going to pass today.
Pass today. Hit me up next week.
Yeah.
Unless we get spoilers. If it gets spoiled that Colossus is coming with somebody else, no takesies backsies.
No, I would never take that bet. That's so obvious.
Well, he could come with Negasonic Teenage Warhead since he's in X-Force. So it's possible. Mm-hmm. Like there's outs. It's just like I think it's pretty obvious. Mm-hmm. The Ruski pack. It's gonna be great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up for today. This has been Brandon
and Parker
and Jermagor Constagar
Constagan. Why are you so bad saying your own name?
I don't know.
Well, if your name was Jermagor Constagan, you'd have a hard time too.
It is. It's rough. True. It's rough being me.
All right, and this has been The Gang Chokes on Their Aspirations. Backup has started. It's a good thing because I think I had to use the backup last week.
I could tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a pretty bad audio quality for me. I tried to fix it, but basically what had happened is when I opened my backup program, it changed the sensitivity on the mic for Audacity, and so I was recording at 100%, so it was just way off. And even though I normally record at 90%, that last 10%'s a doozy. So yeah, I was way out of whack. I tried to bring it down, but it just flattened everything and made everything loud. It was a mess. I probably spent 3 hours editing the podcast last week. Was it listenable at least? Like I know
it was fine.
Normal quality.
It was fine. It was just a noticeable quality change.
Okay.
I
Well,
could tell.
It's at least not terribad.
No, it wasn't horrible.
Okay. Parker is furiously reading.
Mm-hmm.
He's reading.
I'm reading
the
cards. I've
never seen someone hate read as hard as you. Like he looks like he's about to murder children and like it.
The MCP pictures are like pictures of pictures, so they're super tiny, and so I'm reading them right now to make sure I don't.
Oh
fuck it
yeah,
up.
those are not good. Basically, can I borrow this? Is if it's like professionals, but you only need one person.
I'm reading Winds of Chaos now.
That's an alright one. No More Mutants is way better.
Yeah, is no more
Remember
Mutants-
when
Shush.
there was?
Yeah, it's just
There
shush.
was still a reason to play Ebony Maw.
Yeah.
It was just a bad reason.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't exist anymore.
That poor fella.
How can you compare Ebony Maw to Scarlet Witch? Sad days for little squid boys.
Poor Squidward.
There was already a nail in the coffin. They just dropped it in the ocean. That's all they did with Scarlet Witch. Like, goodbye. We have decided we no longer need you.
Yeah, that's sad. I would love to see a something to fix him in some way. Just something.
There could be a new Infinity Stone printed that only is allowed to be equipped by Ebony Maw that reduces his point cost by 1. And then he'd be decent, because he would get enough power and he would only be 4 points.
It'd take up a slot, a character
It
slot.
would be okay if
just
it took up a character slot, if he was a 4-point model that got 4 power a turn.
What if that was a tactics card you just played, and you could play him for 1 point cheaper?
I don't think I'd give up a tactic slot. Because it's a combination of reducing his point cost and giving him an extra power. Because he needs both. He doesn't have enough power as is. Because they gave him a lot of power, but he has no gaining attacks. And his powers are costed assuming he's going to have that power. So he has no way to actually get ahead on power.
Yeah, that was a bad move. Giving him not letting him to be able to gain power was a bad move. That was definitely they tripped up on that.
Which, it's an experiment. Like, I'm fine if Ebony Maw stumbled so Magneto could sprint. It's fine.
True.
But now they know, so the next model won't be bad. It's good. It's always better to miss low than high, because if you miss high, you end up with Modocs everywhere. And if you miss low, you end up with Ebony Maws and then other models that are played.
True enough.
Are you up to speed?
I'm good to go.
Oh, okay. We were waiting on you.
I've been podcasting.
You with your face, it's hard to tell if you're reading or you're just sad.
No, I am reading.
Okay.
I do read sad, though. Just so you know, this is my face when I'm listening to Jim Butcher also.
Yeah, I was going to say. I used to
until
read
something
happy.
awesome happens.
Now after book 17, I read sad.
Until something awesome happens, and then I'm like, yeah, yay. That's not my face when I'm reading The Iron Druid, for reasons you well know.
Yeah, it's just you breaking things through your face.
Oh my god, I've never had such a visceral reaction as you were there in that car. I thought I was like, I need to destroy this car. Like, I need to do something to vent this incredible rage.
I was driving, right?
Yeah,
Pretty sure I was driving.
No, I was driving.
Would've...
I remember because I was white knuckling the wheel so hard it was like grinding under my hands. I was like,
yeah, you're like considering driving into a telephone pole. You're like, it's worth it. It's worth it. It'll stop. It'll all go away.
Oh, making
all right.
Quoting Greek philosophers with dog puns was just ugh.
Cry ham hock. And
Yeah.
let loose the hogs
Graham
of war.
Hawk. And let loose the dogs of war. Oh, Jesus.
I'm gonna buy the the short story that's just the dog and give it to you for Christmas.
I almost want to listen to it. Like,
I just want to know how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yeah, right.
And by rabbit hole, I mean sphincter of the abyss.
Yeah, I just want to look down into the dark and see it blink. I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know. that terrible thing.
Alrighty. Is there anything we're missing out of the box sets? There's the 2 mission cards, the 3 Tactics cards I don't think we knew about. Oh, here, let me go close the door so there's no weird sound effects coming from upstairs. Hold on. Alright. One of the dogs was sitting up upstairs chewing on a bone, and I could hear it, so I assumed the microphone was picking it up. He wants to come down here and hang out with me, but he knows he's not supposed to.
Aww.
No, it's not my dog. It's the other dog's. It's the super hyper brown one.
Gotcha.
Oh, boy. Alright, so it was a nice casual week. Not much going on. Everybody had lots of free time. So, I have also been quite busy this week. I haven't even gotten to look at those rules you sent me yet. That's how busy I've been. I haven't even opened the link. Yeah.
Well, I got forced into a promotion, so I'm getting my ass kicked as well.
Nice. Is it that sweet promotion we talked about where you don't get a raise?
No, I made him give me a pretty good raise, but I told him I didn't want it initially. I was like, no, it sounds great, but it's not for me. I don't have time. Like, I don't want it. And then, like, a day later, it was like, hey, can we talk again about that? And I'm like, I don't really want to talk about it, as I told you initially. And it was, well, my boss's boss believes it's the way we need to go with it. And I was like, okay.
And I've been told it's the way we're going, so I'm talking to you about it.
Yes. And I was like, okay, well, pay me then. So, I have money, but I would rather
like
trade.
to exchange that money in the time vending machine, please.
Yes. And that, I swear to God, that's one of the things I actually said was, because she said, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like that's enough money? Like, do you feel good? I'm like, I can't buy time, so I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. And of course, this kind of thing floors my boss because it's like, I'm just.
She's like, but I'm giving you money?
But money equals happy? I'm like, no, that's not how life works. Actually, it seems like it, but it's not.
I got 2 kids and like golf times. Like,
dude,
I got stuff to do.
It's like, do you know how much shit I do? Like, you have no idea. Like, no.
I do a podcast. I play games. I got kids. I play golf. I also coach baseball, I guess.
Yeah, I got all kinds of shit, man. Ugh. So yeah,
meanwhile,
I'm getting stomped as well.
A stay-at-home job that he can't get away from.
Jesus. Stay-at-home job.
See how I phrase that to make you look like the bad guy, Parker?
Yeah, I heard it.
Wrong ear, Parker. Wrong ear.
No, I don't touch that one. That's the ear we don't touch. We don't speak of that one.
You quit shoving pencils in, it wouldn't hurt all the time.
He keeps losing erasers in his ear canal. It's awful. It's a bot fly. It's laying babies in there right now.
It's probably just a brown recluse, and you just haven't seen the necrosis yet.
Oh my God!
Isn't that the
Jesus.
worst? Ugh. So Andrew, one of our regulars at 31st Century, used to like team lead the night shift on the floor crew at Walmart. One of his guys came in one night, and he's like, "Man, I don't feel so good." He's like, "Well, what's wrong?" He's like, "Oh, I got stung by a brown recluse on my stomach." And the guy's like, "Go to the hospital!" Like immediately, go to the hospital. He's like,
my God.
"Yeah, I don't want to spend any money though." He's like, "Go to the hospital unless you like someone taking a melon baller to your stomach. Like, get the hell out of here."
Melon baller.
No, I'll see how it goes. And he's like, "You're a retard. Like, I don't know what to do about this." And so, like, sure enough, 3 hours later, the guy is like in debilitating pain and is like bleeding out of his stomach. You're like, "Go to the hospital!" Like, you freaking idiot. Eventually, I think he went home. And then, I don't know, probably died of stupidity.
Wow.
I'm not necessarily afraid of bugs, but I'm afraid of things that will sting me or bite me, and then parts of my body will fall off. That's mostly what I'm afraid of.
Oh my god, my kids are into this show called like Masters of Pain, and
Oh, yeah.
oh shit, they find the nastiest, gnarliest bug slash venomous venomous ocean creature, and they're like, okay, bro, hold it, and they're like, bam,
Yeah.
get bit by it, stung by it, whatever, and they're like, this is horrible, and they're screaming, and then the other guy's like, okay, now you. So then the next guy gets it, and we just sit here and watch that show for hours. Just people getting stung and bit by shit on purpose. Oh,
That is a weird, awesome fascination.
oh, it's so good.
It's like those slap battles. Have you seen the slap
Oh.
battles?
Oh yeah,
With
those
It's like
guys
a
get beat
sport
the
now? Yeah.
those guys get beat the
Dumpling.
shit up.
Mm.
Yeah, I saw.
Like the guy gets slapped, can't stand up straight. They give him 9 smelling salts, let him get hit again. And they're like, yeah, I'm sure there's nothing bad happening
He's fine.
here.
Oh god.
There's no problems being interpreted by his brain.
That's
Yeah,
that's
have you
pretty
ever
strange.
have you ever seen the like pictures of those guys like a couple hours after?
Where the whole like side of their head is swollen.
Yes, where it's just like a
They're like-
goddamn cantaloupe in their cheek. It's like, what the fuck?
And their eyes are just completely blood red
Yeah.
because of all the blood vessels they've broken.
Jesus
It's like, you're an idiot.
Christ.
Why don't you just have a headbutt competition?
Yeah,
Like, what the
that's
hell are you doing?
terrible.
Looks like they just
That was-
fought Kimbo Slice.
Right. I was actually entertained by those until I saw some of the stuff that happens to those
Yeah.
guys after. I'm like, oh, that is some brutal
Brass
shit.
knuckles stop hurting after the 9th or 12th hit. And you're like, there's a reason. It's because your
Oh.
brain is turning off.
It's called shock. Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Anyway. All right. Well, that was fun.
That was
a good
fun.
conversation.
I like that.
The dog has now decided to move directly above me on the hard kitchen floor and drop the bone repeatedly. So you hear noise.
Well, we can't hear it.
Good. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. I got the double pun in twice.
Oh, I hate it so much.
Oh no.
Oh, it makes me so mad that it exists.
Well done.
It's my favorite movie of all time.
What movie is that?
Oh, it's Rogue One.
Rogue One.
With the scene where Krennic goes into the chamber to meet Vader, and he's like, "I want to talk to the Emperor," and he like starts force choking him, and he's like, "Don't choke on your aspirations." And Parker literally just started crying in the theater.
Oh, no.
I was so mad. I was so mad. I've never been so. I pride myself in not being a Star Wars hater. Like I pride myself in going, you know what? These are people working hard. They deserve the benefit of the doubt. But when he said that, I was like, burn whatever fucking writer was responsible for that shit. That shit. If I find them, I'm going to kick them. I'm going to kick them hard right in the diaphragm. They're going to fall over and gasp. I'm not going to kick them again because I got what I needed to get. But that is something they need. Whoever thought that was a good idea. Oh.
So, 2 things. First, what was worse? That moment when Vader completely ruined any respect you had for him, or every single moment of Alita Battle Angel?
That's really hard. Alita
I don't know.
I'm one of those people who actually didn't. I didn't mind Alita Battle Angel because as soon as the German guy picked up the rocket powered hammer, I was like, oh, okay, well this movie's retarded. Like,
All right.
like it's like,
Well,
this movie
there's
is a short
something
bus.
broken
Like,
deep inside you if you didn't hate that movie.
yeah. As soon as Edward Norton takes off his space goggles and looks down at the last scene, and I'm just like, oh, okay, so this movie is like. What is this movie like? This movie is like, wear a straitjacket in a padded room. Like, you don't understand reality. You live in a different place where things this makes sense. Like, you'd have to be a kindergartner to like this movie. Because kindergartners are crazy. Like, they're actually crazy. Like, they're crazy in a way that's, like, you can't wrap your head around. Crazy in, like a Van Gogh kind of way. Like, chop off your own ear kind of crazy.
They haven't become sane yet. They're crazy until they become sane, and that's usually like
Right.
5.
Right.
Well, I
and
never saw it.
that's what Alita Battle Angel is like.
I think my kids were 6 years old when they saw it, and they loved it. So you make perfect sense.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's like it's written by kindergartners for kindergartners. Like it makes perfect sense. Oh,
So
and
there
by the
was-
way, apparently I haven't seen the anime itself is apparently much longer, much more interesting. And the manga it's based on is also much longer, much more interesting, and it's a really like fun and good read. There's a reason why they wanted to make a movie of it, and then they just went full retard. You never go full retard. It was bad.
And there was one other thing I wanted to bring up is that are you guys also very tired of directors trying to insert themselves into our genres and be like, hey guys, this movie is no longer around whatever thing that you hold dear. It's now about my ego and making sure that everybody knows how awesome of a director I am. I don't think directors understand that their job is to make things that we want to see, not things that show how good they are at directing. Because like every time a director gets like an independent studio that's not like Marvel owned, basically gets a hold of some kind of IP, they make it however the director wants to show that they can re-envision whatever the thing was originally in a way that we will like understand that they're good at directing.
Are you talking
not
about
like
are you talking about remakes?
Just make the actual remakes basically, but it's not just remakes. It's what's a perfect example of this? How about the original Fantastic Four, the one that came out in the 2000s? Is like we can't just make the Fantastic Four into a movie. We have to change a bunch of the backstory things and a bunch of the other things about the storyline to make it about, like, just basically make it different than what it originally was. Like, they can't just make something into a movie. They have to, like, make a statement about, like, something, or they have to, like, rewrite something to show how they could reimagine it better than it was. And it never works.
I'll actually say that I've actually spent a little bit of time recently watching one of my new favorite YouTube channels, and this guy makes short documentary about filmmaking and why some films work and some films don't. It's like Anatomy of a Success and Anatomy of Failure. He pulls it apart, and I've learned a lot about the filmmaking industry. And I'm not trying to derail your point, but according to him, and I'm willing to understand his evidence, because he does critical analyses. He just does video versions of critical analyses, and they're very dry if you're not into that kind of thing. But the evidence that he produces is basically functionally this, that the great majority of failures in movies that obviously we can ostensibly look and go, there's no way anybody with two synapses rubbing together can tell that this is a good movie. It's a bad movie. Are actually not because of any of the creative designers. It's not the director or the writers or the storyboarders or any of those folks. It's production companies, people who have no business making movies but do the business of making movies, making decisions on behalf of the storyteller. So there is a non-zero chance, in fact probably a very, very good chance, that the producers of movies at Fox had more to do with the retelling of that story than anyone who wanted to retell it. And I do not know how often directors get to mess up movies before producers do it for them. That being said, I'm sorry. That being said, I think it's funny because the opposite is true sometimes. We know that there are some times when directors get so much clout and creative designers get so much clout that they can exercise, functionally total creative control over products, and then we get really cool stuff. So I say there's probably there's two sides to that coin. I'm sure there's, like you said, the independent film, the small film, where an art, somebody's trying to do something really artsy. They probably don't have a lot of,
when I said independent, I just basically meant where the owner of the IP is not the one directing the movie, basically, or controlling creative design over the movie. That's mainly what I meant. Not specifically small studios and stuff.
I can guarantee you that Fox had something to do with that movie.
Which movie?
Fantastic Four. I can guarantee you that producers and executives at Fox were trying to sell something rather than tell a Fantastic Four story, and so they did whatever they thought would be the most appealing to the lowest common denominator. And that kind of behavior it happens in Hollywood all the time, where they're not making movies to tell stories; they're making movies to make money. And what we know about successful movie production franchises is that when you try to enable both at the same time, that's how you actually get the biggest bang for your buck. You can't actually just use lip service unless you're making a movie designed entirely to sell out to a certain demographic, and you just pray that somebody will, buy Transformers 9. Because so far, it's worked. As long as you do the same formula over and over again, there's a certain portion of the population that will buy it, enough people that it makes a profit, so they just sell out for that.
So, for example, I just looked it up. So, Spider-Man, the 2002 release, and then Spider-Man 3, the 2007 release, had the same director, but those movies were not even remotely on the same fucking page.
Right.
And so you're saying that would be like a Fox executive problem.
Right. That's evidence to point to the fact that beyond the creative control of any of the story designers or tellers, somebody said, we got to get Topher Grace in this. Like, we gotta. And
because they owed somebody a favor.
Right. It's just like this Topher Grace will sell. He's hot right now. Let's get him in there. You're like, well, we already have 2 villains in here. You're like, no. We need Topher Grace also. Like, okay.
Who can Topher Grace play? It's like, well, according to the data that we've collected from like census groups, people like Venom, so make him Venom. You're like, but he's not Venom. Like, it doesn't matter, make him Venom. You're like, okay.
Right.
And then Jeremy gets a raise and it happens anyway.
That movie is so bad that even my kids,
bad.
There's Spider-Man 1, there's Spider-Man 2, and then there's Bad Spider-Man. That's what they call it.
Yeah. Spider-Bad.
They call it Bad Spider-Man. They don't like
the movie. Just think about this. The movie that had Spider-Pig in it was dramatically better than Spider-Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be fair, that Spider-Man is one of the best movies in the last few years. That fucking movie
disagree with
is
that.
amazing.
I don't understand. I don't know where that fucking narrative comes from. It's okay. It's a good
amazing.
movie, but
I love that
it's
movie.
not crazy.
It's great.
Yeah,
You're wrong.
It's just okay. It's just okay.
Nah, that's incorrect.
Everyone I've talked to is like, that's like the best Marvel movie ever. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you were watching. Maybe I saw a different version. It was good, but it wasn't like insane. Into the Spider-Verse.
No, I know, but it wasn't. Is it Into the Spider-Verse? I don't even think it's MCU. I don't.
No,
think
it's
it
Sony.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's Sony.
It's Sony.
Well, it was. I don't know if it still is or what's going on with that. Because I think it came out before Fox Entertainment got bought, and I don't know how all that works.
Spider-Man.
I don't know.
The Spider-Man IP is still owned by Sony. They functionally lease it to the MCU. But it works.
Makes sense. That's logical.
There's time and time again, story after story after story of how people who want to make creative things, when they give a strong idea to strong creators, those are the things that make the most impact on like the zeitgeist and make the most money. And the problem is when that happens and something kind of spontaneously happens. For example, Jon Favreau and Iron Man is a great example of like a very creative director who works really fucking hard to make amazing movies, created something without a lot of production oversight because people did not bank on it. They thought it was going to be another money pit, and they just crossed their fingers and hoped it did well in China. So like that's what they did. And then, of course, because it's a creative designer and the right team and the right actors, and all of a sudden it grows into this phenomenon, then everybody piles on top of it and wants to do the same thing. And that's when
you get Iron Man 3.
Right, that's how you get Iron Man 3. That's how you get the Godzilla movies. That's how you get the Transformer movies. All these other production companies go, well, we have to make our own universe as fast as we can in order to create the MCU. We need to do the MCU. And so creative directors might go, okay, well, I'd really like to tell the Godzilla story. And they go, okay, we need to turn this into a whole monster franchise. They go, well, that's not really, that doesn't make any sense for the story. It's like, no, we're doing it because that worked for the MCU. That made them money because a really creative person started it. So we'll just make that happen here too. That you're trying to reinvent serendipity, right? You're trying to make miracles happen again with money, I guess. So of course that lands.
But
on
then
its face.
also you have to cast all these people and have these plot points.
Yeah.
And you're like, so I'm not directing the movie.
And at least a full quarter of it has to happen in China. Mm-hmm. So like those are when all of a sudden your set changes from New York to Beijing and there's no good reason for it. You know, a production company is involved because it's no longer about story or setting. It's now about making as much money as you can, and if we can appeal to Chinese audiences, we're going to make more money. Full stop. Who cares?
There was an episode of 30 Rock about this where they go to make a movie and they basically just keep taking on sponsors and changing the script and changing the movie until basically the entire movie is just product placement.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's basically Saw 7, right? And then but instead of Saw, every 30 seconds one of the captured people go like, man, I really wish I had a Coke right now. Like something like that happens every 30 seconds of the movie. And then like the main character, Leslie, or is her name Leslie? Elizabeth? Liz. They call her Liz.
Liz Lemon.
And Liz. And so she turns to the guy who's basically in charge of the movie. She goes, no one will ever buy a ticket to this. Like, oh, it doesn't matter. We've already made money. We made $3 million before the movie went to release. Like, we don't care if they watch it or not. And you're like, why are you doing this? Yeah. Like, they had so many sponsors that they literally already made money.
Yeah. The movie Warcraft is another really good modern example of just like production companies going, it doesn't matter if it's crappy. It doesn't matter what it is. Just make it. And then somebody in China will buy it. Warcraft did horrible in American box offices, and it made $439 million worldwide, and almost all of it was in China because people in Eastern Asia love that game, World of Warcraft. They just play it like crazy. So they went to see it. So like that's all production companies forcing the construction of these things in such a way that it doesn't matter what it actually is, as long as it makes some money back. And that's why people care so much about these kind of like singularity events like Avatar, not The Last Airbender, the James Cameron movie, like
the Dances with Wolves Avatar.
Yeah, Dances with Wolves / Pocahontas, right? And when somebody makes a movie like that, where they go, okay, this is somebody with a creative person with immense amount of creative control making something extraordinary, and then all of a sudden it goes, oh my gosh, finally movies can be made. Movies are being made still, and everybody gets super excited because a production company isn't getting trying to really, really hard to sell a movie. Somebody is just by their own clout. The Mandalorian's another good example. But Disney actually a long time ago quit doing that because there was a dark period of Disney in the 90s and the early 2000s where they were pumping out shit after shit after shit after shit after shit, just trying to sell toys and merchandise through McDonald's, and their models were failing.
Aladdin
they were losing
3
money.
is a treasure.
What's that?
Aladdin 3 was a treasure.
Yeah. All that shit was horrible.
Aladdin 3.
Yeah, it's like
Aladdin 3. Yeah,
I still remember the plot of Aladdin 3.
Yeah, it's his father.
Aladdin meets his dad. Yeah, he's the
dad.
Prince of the 40 Thieves or whatever.
Oh my god.
And then they go find the Hand of Midas, which is on the back of this giant turtle. Spoilers!
Spoiler.
Damn!
Aladdin 3.
Spoiler alert, Aladdin 3.
Yeah. Those movies were terrible. And you know what they did? They bought Pixar. Rather, they financed Pixar. And so while Disney was making these terrible movies entirely for shills of money, they had a subsidiary company, Pixar, that was making new movies with a lot of creative control. And it wasn't about making money; it was about making interesting products. And all of a sudden, Pixar starts crushing it. And so they asked the creative director of Pixar to be the creative director for all of Disney Animation, which was a brilliant move. But the guy said, I will only come and be the creative director of all of Disney Animation if a producer can never tell me what to do. Ever.
Yeah.
As long as I work for Disney.
He has to have absolute control.
Right. Absolute control.
Yeah, it's like the difference of the newer Star Trek movies and Galaxy Quest. It's like, well, what happens when it's run by a corporation and what happens when it's run by like one guy making all the decisions that actually cares about the content. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like one movie that a budget of like $4 million is all of a sudden. Actually, I'm curious. What was the budget for
Galaxy Quest?
60 million.
Ooh, lower.
Really?
Yep. It's 45 million. Into Darkness was 190 million. so 4 times the budget.
Their box office was only $90 million, but since then it's achieved cult status.
Oh yeah. So yeah, so Into Darkness was 467 million worldwide. Yeah, so they both did about double budget, a little bit more for Into Darkness. Man, 45 million is not a lot of money for all the special effects they had. I wonder how much that just went to the cast, because they had a lot of famous people. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up because I gotta go to the bathroom.